Have you ever wondered how a single dinosaur could completely rewrite everything we thought we knew about prehistoric life? Well, buckle up, because the story of Spinosaurus is about to blow your mind in ways you never expected. Picture this. You're a paleontologist in the early 1800s, and you've just discovered some massive, razor-sharp teeth buried in English soil. Your heart races as you examine these incredible fossils. But here's the kicker. You think they belong to ancient crocodiles. Little do you know, you've just stumbled upon the first clues to one of the most mysterious and controversial dinosaurs that ever lived. What I'm about to reveal will take you on an incredible journey through nearly 2 centuries of scientific discovery, devastating setbacks, and mind-blowing revelations that have turned our understanding of dinosaurs completely upside down. We're talking about a creature so bizarre that every new fossil discovery has forced scientists to completely rethink what they thought they knew. But here's what makes this story absolutely fascinating. This isn't just about one dinosaur. This is about how our entire perception of prehistoric life has evolved, how scientific understanding can be completely revolutionized by a single discovery, and how one creature has sparked debates that continue to rage among the world's top paleontologists even today. By the end of this series, you'll understand exactly why Spinosaurus has become the most controversial dinosaur in scientific history. And trust me, the revelations we're about to uncover will change everything you thought you knew about these ancient giants. I've spent countless hours researching every twist and turn in this incredible scientific saga, and what you're about to discover will absolutely amaze you. So, let's dive into this extraordinary tale, starting with those mysterious teeth discovered nearly 200 years ago that would eventually lead to one of the most shocking revelations in paleontological history. The year was 1820, and fossil hunters across England were making incredible discoveries that would reshape our understanding of ancient life. But when those first Spinosaurus teeth emerged from the ground, nobody could have predicted the scientific roller coaster that was about to begin. These weren't just any ordinary fossils. They were massive, conical, and unlike anything scientists had seen before. The problem was, paleontology was still in its infancy. The very concept of dinosaurs wouldn't even be formally established for another 2 decades. So when researchers examined these strange teeth, they did what any reasonable scientist would do. They compared them to modern animals. The closest match? Crocodiles. And honestly, you can't blame them for this mistake, because these teeth really did look remarkably similar to those of massive crocodilians. For decades, these fossils sat in collections, labeled and cataloged as ancient crocodile remains. Scientists moved on to other discoveries, completely unaware that they had actually found evidence of something far more extraordinary. It's almost poetic when you think about it. The first pieces of one of the most unique dinosaurs ever discovered were hiding in plain sight, misidentified, and forgotten. But here's where the story gets really interesting. Fast forward to the early 1900s, and the stage was set for a discovery that would change everything. Egypt was becoming a hotbed of paleontological activity, and fossil hunters were making remarkable finds in the desert sands. The conditions were perfect. Ancient river systems had preserved countless creatures from a time when North Africa was a lush, tropical paradise teeming with life. In 1912, everything changed. German paleontologist Ernst Stromer was working in the Egyptian desert when his team uncovered something absolutely extraordinary. These weren't just random bone fragments. They were parts of a massive theropod dinosaur, but unlike anything anyone had ever seen before. The teeth were wrong, the jaw was wrong, and most shocking of all, there were these enormous spinal bones that suggested the presence of some kind of massive sail or fin on the creature's back. Stromer knew immediately that he was looking at something special. The combination of features was unlike any known dinosaur. The teeth were conical and sharp, perfect for catching fish rather than tearing flesh from other dinosaurs. The snout was elongated and crocodile-like, suggesting a lifestyle completely different from typical predatory dinosaurs like Allosaurus or the yet-to-be-discovered Tyrannosaurus rex. But those spinal bones, those were the real game-changer. They were incredibly long, some measuring over 5 feet in height, and they suggested that this creature had some kind of massive structure running along its back. Nothing like this had ever been found before. Was it a sail like the one on Dimetrodon, the famous sail-backed synapsid? Or was it something entirely different? Stromer carefully studied these fossils and realized he was dealing with not just a new species, but an entirely new type of dinosaur. In 1915, he officially named this creature Spinosaurus aegyptiacus, the Egyptian spine lizard. The scientific world was captivated. Here was a dinosaur that challenged every assumption about how these ancient predators lived and behaved. The initial reconstruction was fascinating but limited. With only partial remains to work with, Stromer and other paleontologists had to make educated guesses about what this creature actually looked like. They envisioned a massive bipedal predator with a distinctive sail running along its back, but the details remained frustratingly elusive. Throughout the 1920s and 1930s, additional fragments were discovered, each one adding another piece to this growing puzzle. But every new find seemed to raise more questions than answers. The more scientists learned about Spinosaurus, the more bizarre it became. This wasn't just another large predatory dinosaur. It was something completely unique. The scientific community was divided. Some researchers embraced the idea of this strange sail-backed giant, while others remained skeptical. The fossils were fragmentary, and the interpretations were based on limited evidence. But everyone agreed on one thing: Spinosaurus was unlike any dinosaur that had ever been discovered. Then disaster struck. World War II was raging across Europe, and German cities were being bombed night after night. Munich, where Stromer's precious Spinosaurus fossils were housed in the State Collection of Paleontology, became a target for Allied bombing raids. On the night of April 24, 1944, bombs rained down on the city, and the museum was hit directly. In a single night of destruction, nearly all of the original Spinosaurus fossils were lost forever. Decades of careful excavation and study were reduced to rubble and ash. It was a devastating blow to paleontology, and one that would haunt Spinosaurus research for generations to come. Suddenly, all that remained of this incredible dinosaur were Stromer's published descriptions, his detailed drawings, and a few photographs. The physical evidence that had taken so long to uncover was gone, leaving scientists with nothing but second-hand accounts of what had been discovered. It was like trying to solve a puzzle with most of the pieces missing and only a faded photograph of what the completed picture might have looked like. For the next several decades, Spinosaurus became something of a paleontological ghost. Artists and scientists had to rely on Stromer's work to create reconstructions, but without the original fossils to study, progress was painfully slow. The creature was often depicted as a fairly typical large theropod dinosaur, just with the addition of that distinctive sail on its back. The popular image that emerged during this period showed Spinosaurus as a massive bipedal predator, standing upright in a tripod stance, with its tail dragging behind it. The sail was usually depicted as a simple, symmetrical structure running along the animal's back, similar to that of Dimetrodon, but much larger. It was an impressive sight, but as we would later discover, this reconstruction was missing some crucial details. Interestingly, some of the earlier artistic interpretations got certain aspects surprisingly right, even if they got others completely wrong. A 1930s reconstruction showed Spinosaurus with a longer torso and shorter legs than many later depictions, features that would prove remarkably prescient when new fossils were finally discovered decades later. But without new fossil evidence, Spinosaurus remained frozen in time, a mysterious creature known more from imagination than from scientific fact. The paleontological community moved on to other discoveries, other dinosaurs that could be studied with actual physical evidence rather than educated guesswork. Everything began to change in the 1960s and 1970s as new spinosaurid fossils started turning up in different parts of the world. Partial remains discovered in Nigeria showed clear similarities to Stromer's original Spinosaurus, suggesting that these unusual dinosaurs had been more widespread than previously thought. Each new discovery added another piece to the puzzle, slowly building a clearer picture of what these creatures might have looked like and how they lived. The real breakthrough came with the discovery of baryonyx in England during the 1980s. Here, finally, was a nearly complete skeleton of a Spinosaurid dinosaur that could be studied in detail. Baryonyx revealed features that had only been hinted at in the fragmentary Spinosaurus remains. The elongated skull, the massive thumb claws, and clear adaptations for a fish-eating lifestyle. Suddenly, the scientific community had a template for understanding Spinosaurids. These weren't typical predatory dinosaurs at all. They were specialists, adapted for catching fish and living near water. The crocodile-like skulls, the conical teeth, the massive claws. It all made sense when viewed through the lens of an aquatic or semi-aquatic lifestyle. By the 1990s, new reconstructions of Spinosaurus began to emerge that incorporated these insights from baryonyx and other Spinosaurid discoveries. The creature was now depicted with a distinctly crocodilian skull, complete with a bony crest above the eyes and an S-curved neck. The massive thumb claws were emphasized and the overall body plan suggested an animal equally comfortable on land and in water. This new interpretation of Spinosaurus captured the public imagination in a way that the earlier reconstructions never had. Here was a dinosaur that challenged our preconceptions about how these ancient creatures lived, instead of being just another land-based predator. Spinosaurus was portrayed as something unique, a giant fish-eating dinosaur that spent much of its time in and around water. The creature's popularity reached new heights when it was featured as the main antagonist in Jurassic Park 3 in 2001. The movie depicted Spinosaurus as an enormous super predator, even larger than Tyrannosaurus rex, with a distinctive sail and a fearsome crocodile-like head. While the film took considerable liberties with scientific accuracy, it introduced millions of people around the world to this fascinating dinosaur. But even as Spinosaurus gained fame in popular culture, the scientific understanding of the creature remained frustratingly incomplete. Despite decades of searching, no new substantial remains had been found to replace those lost in the Munich bombing. Paleontologists were still working with fragments and educated guesses, longing for the kind of complete skeleton that would finally reveal the true nature of this enigmatic giant. The stage was set for discoveries that would completely revolutionize our understanding of Spinosaurus. But nobody could have predicted just how dramatically our perception of this creature was about to change. The next chapter in the Spinosaurus story would bring revelations so shocking that they would force scientists to completely reconsider not just this one dinosaur, but our entire understanding of how some dinosaurs lived and behaved. What happened next would spark debates that continue to this day and reveal secrets about Spinosaurus that would have seemed like science fiction just a few years earlier. The turning point came in 2014, and let me tell you, it was like watching a scientific earthquake unfold in real time. Picture this. After nearly a century of speculation and incomplete fossils, researchers working in the Kem fossil beds of Morocco made a discovery that would send shock waves through the entire paleontological community. What they found wasn't just another fragment or isolated bone. This was the most complete Spinosaurus skeleton ever discovered. We're talking about skull pieces, hand bones, leg fragments, parts of the pelvis, those iconic sail spines, and vertebrae from the neck all the way down to the tail. After decades of working with scraps and educated guesses, scientists finally had substantial material to work with. But here's where things get absolutely mind-blowing. When the research team began analyzing these new fossils, what they discovered defied every single expectation anyone had about this creature. Everything we thought we knew about Spinosaurus was about to be turned completely upside down. The first shock came when they measured the proportions. This wasn't the typical bipedal giant that had been depicted in movies and museums for decades. Instead, the skeleton revealed something that seemed almost impossible. Spinosaurus had an incredibly long torso, paired with surprisingly short legs. We're talking about proportions that were unlike any other large theropod dinosaur that had ever been discovered. Think about that for a moment. Here was supposedly one of the largest predatory dinosaurs that ever lived, and it had stubby little legs that seemed completely inadequate for supporting its massive bulk in a traditional upright stance. The scientific community was stunned. How could this possibly work? How could such a massive creature function with such unusual proportions? But the surprises were just getting started. When researchers examined the feet, they found something extraordinary. These weren't the typical bird-like feet you'd expect from a theropod dinosaur. Instead, the foot bones showed adaptations that suggested they might have been webbed, like those of a duck or other aquatic bird. The implications were staggering. This was evidence that Spinosaurus might have been far more aquatic than anyone had ever imagined. The sail itself revealed another surprise. Instead of the simple, symmetrical structure that had been depicted in countless reconstructions, the actual neural spines suggested an M-shaped sail with two distinct peaks. This wasn't just a minor detail. It completely changed how the animal would have looked and potentially how the sail functioned. As more details emerged from the analysis, the picture that developed was unlike anything anyone had expected. The center of mass was positioned far forward, thanks to that elongated skull and massive torso. The short legs seemed inadequate for typical bipedal locomotion. Everything about this creature suggested adaptations for a lifestyle that was radically different from other large predatory dinosaurs. Some researchers began proposing something that seemed almost heretical in the world of dinosaur paleontology. What if Spinosaurus was actually quadrupedal? What if this massive creature spent much of its time walking on all fours rather than standing upright like other theropods? It was a revolutionary idea that challenged fundamental assumptions about how large predatory dinosaurs moved and behaved. The debate that erupted was unlike anything the paleontological community had seen in years. Conference halls buzzed with heated discussions. Research papers flew back and forth, each presenting new evidence and interpretations. Some scientists embraced these radical new ideas about Spinosaurus, while others remained deeply skeptical. The skeptics raised important questions. Were all these bones really from the same individual animal? Could there have been some mistake in the reconstruction? How could such unusual proportions actually work in a living animal? These weren't frivolous concerns. They were legitimate scientific questions that demanded careful investigation. What made the debate even more intense was the broader implications. If Spinosaurus really was as aquatic as the evidence suggested, it would represent something unprecedented in the dinosaur fossil record. We're talking about the first confirmed semi-aquatic non-avian dinosaur, a creature that had adapted to life in and around water in ways that no other dinosaur had ever achieved. The research teams dove deeper into their analysis, employing cutting-edge techniques to understand how this bizarre creature might have actually lived. They studied the bone density, analyzed the isotopic composition of the teeth, and used computer modeling to understand how the unusual body proportions would have affected movement and behavior. The isotope analysis of the teeth provided crucial supporting evidence. The chemical signatures locked within the tooth enamel told a story of an animal that spent significant time in aquatic environments, feeding on fish and other marine creatures. This wasn't just speculation anymore. It was hard chemical evidence supporting the idea of a semi-aquatic lifestyle. But even as evidence mounted for this new interpretation of Spinosaurus, questions remained about exactly how aquatic this creature really was. Computer models suggested that while the animal might have been an excellent swimmer at the surface, its bone density and body structure probably weren't suited for deep diving. Instead, it likely spent its time in shallow waters, using its massive size and specialized adaptations to catch fish and other aquatic prey. The center of mass calculations revealed another interesting detail. While the forward heavy build initially suggested that Spinosaurus might have been obligately quadrupedal, more refined analysis indicated that the center of mass was actually positioned closer to the hips than initially thought. This meant that while the animal might have spent time on all fours, particularly when feeding or moving through water, it could probably still rear up on its hind legs when necessary. This created a picture of incredible behavioral flexibility. Imagine a massive dinosaur that could switch between different modes of locomotion depending on the situation. Walking on all fours while hunting in shallow water, then rearing up on its hind legs to move across land or to intimidate rivals. It was like discovering that nature had produced something that seemed almost mythological in its uniqueness. The scientific community was still processing these revelations when another bombshell discovery emerged in 2020. Researchers working with additional Spinosaurus material made an announcement that would add yet another layer to this already complex puzzle. They had discovered evidence of the creature's tail, and what they found was beyond anything anyone had imagined. The tail wasn't the typical whip-like structure you'd expect from a theropod dinosaur. Instead, it was paddle-shaped, supported by incredibly long neural spines and chevron bones that created a structure remarkably similar to the tail of an eel or newt. This wasn't just adaptation for an aquatic lifestyle. This was specialized swimming equipment that suggested Spinosaurus was far more committed to life in the water than anyone had dared to suggest. Picture the implications of this discovery. Here was a dinosaur with webbed feet, a paddle-shaped tail, and body proportions perfectly suited for aquatic locomotion. This wasn't just a dinosaur that occasionally waded into water to catch fish. This was a creature that had evolved sophisticated adaptations for swimming and spending extended periods submerged. The paddle-tail discovery sent another wave of excitement and debate through the paleontological community. Computer simulations suggested that this tail would have been incredibly effective for propulsion through water, generating significant thrust with each sweep from side to side. Combined with the other aquatic adaptations, it painted a picture of a dinosaur that was essentially the prehistoric equivalent of a crocodile, but scaled up to enormous proportions. But even with all these discoveries, mysteries remained. The exact shape and function of that distinctive sail continued to puzzle researchers. Was it primarily for display? helping individuals recognize members of their own species and establish dominance? Did it serve as a thermoregulatory device, helping the animal control its body temperature in the warm North African climate? Or could it have had some hydrodynamic function, perhaps helping to stabilize the animal while swimming or serving as additional propulsion surface? Each possibility opened up new avenues of research and speculation. The display hypothesis suggested complex social behaviors, with Spinosaurus individuals using their colorful sails to communicate with potential mates or rivals. The thermoregulation idea implied sophisticated physiological adaptations for dealing with temperature extremes. The hydrodynamic function theory pushed the aquatic lifestyle interpretation even further, suggesting that every aspect of Spinosaurus anatomy was optimized for life in and around water. What emerged from all this research was a creature that seemed almost too extraordinary to be real. Spinosaurus had evolved from our understanding as a fairly typical large predatory dinosaur into something that resembled a prehistoric dragon, a massive semi-aquatic giant with a distinctive sail, paddle tail, and lifestyle unlike any other dinosaur that had ever been discovered. The implications extended far beyond just one species. If Spinosaurus could achieve this level of aquatic adaptation, what did that say about the diversity and flexibility of dinosaur evolution? How many other dinosaurs might have had lifestyles and adaptations that we haven't even begun to imagine? The discovery was opening up entirely new possibilities for understanding how these ancient creatures lived and evolved. But the story was far from over. Even as scientists celebrated these incredible discoveries, they knew that many questions remained unanswered. The fossil record was still incomplete, and each new find had the potential to reveal additional surprises about this remarkable creature. The debates raging through the scientific community weren't just academic exercises. They were fundamentally challenging how we think about dinosaur evolution and behavior. But here's what really gets me excited about this whole saga. Every single time researchers thought they had Spinosaurus figured out, new evidence would emerge that completely flipped the script. Think about the psychology behind this scientific journey for a moment. Imagine spending your entire career studying dinosaurs, building your understanding on certain fundamental assumptions about how these creatures lived and moved. Then suddenly, one discovery forces you to question everything you thought you knew. That's exactly what happened to paleontologists around the world when these new Spinosaurus findings started pouring in. The ripple effects were incredible to witness. Museums worldwide had to reconsider their displays. Textbooks needed complete rewrites. Documentary filmmakers scrambled to update their depictions. This wasn't just about one dinosaur anymore. It was about the entire narrative of prehistoric life. But let me tell you something that really blew my mind when I was researching this story. The resistance to these new ideas wasn't just scientific skepticism. It was almost psychological. For decades, we had been conditioned to think of large theropod dinosaurs in very specific ways. They were land-based apex predators, standing tall on powerful hind legs, dominating their environments through sheer size and ferocity. Spinosaurus shattered that entire framework, Here was evidence of a completely different survival strategy, one that involved adapting to aquatic environments in ways that no other large predatory dinosaur had ever achieved. It was like discovering that nature had been experimenting with possibilities we never even considered. The scientific community found itself grappling with fundamental questions that went far beyond just anatomy and behavior. If one lineage of theropod dinosaurs could evolve such radical aquatic adaptations, what did that mean for our understanding of dinosaur diversity as a whole? How many other ecological niches might these ancient creatures have filled that we simply haven't discovered yet? Research teams began looking at other dinosaur fossils with fresh eyes, searching for subtle clues that might have been overlooked in the past. Were there other semi-aquatic dinosaurs hiding in museum collections, misidentified or misunderstood because they didn't fit our preconceived notions of what dinosaurs should look like? The isotope analysis techniques that had been so revealing for Spinosaurus were applied to other species, and the results were fascinating. Scientists discovered that the chemical signatures in dinosaur teeth and bones could reveal incredible details about ancient diets and habitats. Some dinosaurs that had been assumed to be purely terrestrial showed isotopic evidence of spending time near water or eating aquatic prey. This opened up an entirely new field of research. Paleontologists weren't just studying bones anymore. They were becoming detective archaeologists, using cutting-edge chemistry and physics to reconstruct ancient ecosystems and behaviors in unprecedented detail. Every fossil became a potential treasure trove of information about how these creatures actually lived. The computer modeling work on Spinosaurus locomotion led to breakthroughs in understanding dinosaur biomechanics across the board. Researchers developed new techniques for calculating center of mass, analyzing gait patterns, and understanding how unusual body proportions might have affected movement and behavior. These tools were then applied to other dinosaur species, revealing insights that had been impossible to achieve before. What really struck me about following this research was how collaborative the scientific process became. Teams from different countries and institutions began working together, sharing data and techniques in ways that accelerated discovery exponentially. The Spinosaurus mystery had become a catalyst for innovation in paleontological research methods. But here's where things get really interesting from a scientific methodology perspective. The initial skepticism about the 2014 discoveries actually made the research stronger. When other scientists questioned whether all the bones belonged to the same individual, it forced the research teams to develop more rigorous methods for establishing associations between fossil elements. They began using advanced geological techniques to trace the exact positions where bones were found. They employed statistical analysis to determine the probability that scattered remains belonged to the same animal. They even developed new ways of analyzing the microscopic structure of fossilized bone to determine the age and health of individual dinosaurs at the time of death. This methodological rigor became the new standard for major dinosaur discoveries. The Spinosaurus controversy had inadvertently pushed the entire field to become more precise and more careful in how it approached fossil interpretation. It was a perfect example of how scientific skepticism when applied constructively, actually strengthens our understanding rather than hindering it. The public fascination with these discoveries was unlike anything I'd seen for a dinosaur since the Jurassic Park phenomenon. Social media exploded with discussions about swimming dinosaurs. Artists created incredible reconstructions showing Spinosaurus gliding through ancient rivers like some kind of prehistoric crocodile-dragon hybrid. The creature captured imaginations in a way that traditional dinosaur depictions simply couldn't match. But what really fascinated me was how the discoveries challenged our cultural narratives about dinosaurs. For generations, popular culture had portrayed these creatures as either mindless monsters or simple-minded beasts, driven purely by instinct. The evidence emerging from Spinosaurus research suggested something far more sophisticated. Here was a creature that had evolved incredibly specialized adaptations for a unique ecological niche. The paddle tail wasn't just random evolutionary accident, it was precision engineering for aquatic locomotion. The webbed feet weren't just unusual anatomy. They were sophisticated tools for navigating muddy riverbanks and shallow waters. Every aspect of Spinosaurus anatomy suggested complex behavioral adaptations that required significant intelligence and flexibility. This realization began influencing how scientists thought about dinosaur cognition and behavior across the board. If one species could evolve such sophisticated aquatic adaptations, what did that suggest about the intellectual capabilities of these ancient creatures? Were they far more behaviorally complex than we had ever imagined? The ecosystem reconstructions that emerged from this research were absolutely mind-blowing. Scientists began piecing together a picture of Cretaceous North Africa that was radically different from the modern Sahara Desert. They envisioned vast river systems teeming with fish, crocodiles, and other aquatic life. Giant pterosaurs soared overhead, while various species of dinosaurs occupied different ecological niches along the waterways. Spinosaurus wasn't just living in this environment. It was perfectly adapted to dominate it. The creature could wade through shallow waters, using its sensitive snout to detect fish hiding in the murky depths. Those massive claws could snatch prey with lightning speed, while the powerful tail provided stability and propulsion for underwater pursuits. But the ecosystem wasn't just about Spinosaurus. The research revealed evidence of incredible biodiversity, with multiple species of fish-eating dinosaurs coexisting in the same region. There were smaller spinosaurids, various types of crocodilians, and even early snakes adapted for aquatic life. It was like discovering a lost world that had existed right under our noses for over 90 million years. The preservation conditions in the Kemkem fossil beds turned out to be absolutely crucial for understanding this ancient ecosystem. The rapid burial of remains in river sediments had created a fossil record that captured snapshots of life along these prehistoric waterways. Scientists could study not just individual species, but entire ecological communities and their interactions. This led to fascinating insights about competition and cooperation among different species. Evidence suggested that various fish-eating dinosaurs might have occupied slightly different niches within the same ecosystem, reducing direct competition. Some might have specialized in catching different types of prey, while others might have fed at different times of day or in different parts of the river system. The isotope analysis work expanded to include other elements beyond just diet and habitat. Researchers began examining oxygen isotopes to understand ancient temperature patterns, and strontium isotopes to track migration routes. They discovered that some dinosaurs, including potentially Spinosaurus, might have been migratory, following seasonal changes in water levels and food availability. This migration hypothesis added yet another layer of complexity to our understanding of dinosaur behavior. Instead of being tied to specific territories like many modern large predators, these ancient creatures might have followed sophisticated seasonal patterns that took them across vast distances. The implications for social behavior and navigation abilities were staggering. The sail function debate continued to evolve as new evidence emerged. Computational fluid dynamics studies suggested that the distinctive M-shaped structure might have been optimized for both display and thermal regulation. The dual peaks could have created complex airflow patterns that helped cool the animal, while simultaneously creating a visually striking silhouette for social signaling. Some researchers proposed that the sail might have even played a role in aquatic locomotion, acting as a dorsal fin to provide additional stability and control while swimming. Computer simulations showed that the large surface area could have helped the animal maintain balance in turbulent water conditions, especially when making rapid directional changes while pursuing prey. The dental analysis revealed fascinating details about feeding behavior and diet. The conical teeth weren't just adapted for catching fish, they showed wear patterns consistent with processing a variety of aquatic prey. Some teeth bore scratches suggesting encounters with heavily armored fish, while others showed the kind of damage associated with crushing turtle shells or crocodile bones. This dietary diversity painted a picture of an opportunistic predator that could adapt its feeding behavior to whatever prey was available. During seasonal floods, Spinosaurus might have focused primarily on fish. During dry periods, it might have turned to terrestrial prey or even scavenged carcasses along dried river banks. The growth pattern analysis of Spinosaurus bones revealed another surprise. Unlike many dinosaurs that showed rapid growth to adult size, followed by a plateau, Spinosaurus appeared to continue growing throughout its life, though at decreasing rates. The largest individuals might have reached truly enormous sizes, potentially exceeding even the most optimistic earlier estimates. This continuous growth pattern suggested a lifestyle with abundant food resources and relatively low mortality rates once the animals reached adult size. It painted a picture of apex predators that dominated their ecosystem so completely that they faced few threats and could dedicate energy to continued growth rather than just survival. But perhaps the most exciting aspect of all this research was what it suggested about future discoveries. If Spinosaurus could evolve such radical adaptations, what other surprises might be waiting to be discovered? The fossil record was clearly far more diverse and complex than anyone had imagined, and we had probably only scratched the surface of understanding dinosaur ecological diversity. Research teams began expanding their searches to other geological formations that might preserve evidence of aquatic or semi-aquatic dinosaurs. New excavation techniques were developed specifically for recovering delicate remains from river and lake deposits. The tools and methods pioneered for Spinosaurus research were being applied to fossils from around the world. The technological innovations didn't stop with field work and analysis. Virtual reality reconstructions allowed researchers and the public to experience what it might have been like to encounter a living Spinosaurus in its natural habitat. These immersive visualizations brought the ancient ecosystem to life in ways that static museum displays never could. Advanced biomechanical modeling began revealing details about how these creatures moved through water. The paddle tail wasn't just for propulsion, it was part of an integrated locomotion system that included body undulation, limb movements, and precise positioning of that distinctive sail. Every element worked together to create an aquatic predator, unlike anything in the modern world. The story of Spinosaurus had become more than just paleontology. It was a testament to the power of scientific discovery to completely transform our understanding of life on Earth. But even with all these incredible revelations, researchers knew they were still just beginning to uncover the full story of this remarkable creature and the lost world it inhabited. The revelations kept coming, and each new piece of evidence painted an increasingly extraordinary picture of this prehistoric giant. But what happened next would challenge even the most imaginative reconstructions that scientists had dared to propose. As research teams continued analyzing the mounting evidence, they began to realize that understanding Spinosaurus required completely rethinking how we approached dinosaur paleobiology. This wasn't just about studying bones anymore. It was about reconstructing an entire way of life that had no modern equivalent. The biomechanical studies revealed something absolutely fascinating about how this creature might have moved through its aquatic environment. Unlike modern crocodiles that rely primarily on tail propulsion or marine mammals that use specialized flippers, Spinosaurus appeared to have developed a completely unique approach to underwater locomotion. Computer simulations showed that the creature could generate thrust through coordinated movements of its paddle-shaped tail, powerful hind limbs, and even that distinctive sail structure. The entire body worked as an integrated swimming system, creating a form of aquatic locomotion that was unlike anything that had ever evolved before or since. But here's where things get really mind-blowing. The muscle attachment sites on the newly discovered bones suggested that Spinosaurus possessed incredibly powerful neck and jaw muscles, far more robust than would be necessary for simply catching fish from the surface. This indicated that the creature might have been capable of high-speed underwater pursuit, actively chasing down prey in three-dimensional aquatic space. Think about the implications of that for a moment. We're talking about a 16-meter-long dinosaur that could potentially dive beneath the surface and pursue fast-moving fish through underwater environments. It's like imagining a creature that combined the size of a sperm whale with the hunting behavior of a barracuda. The isotope studies expanded to include analysis of rare earth elements, which revealed even more details about the ancient environment Spinosaurus inhabited. The chemical signatures suggested that these creatures lived in river systems with dramatically fluctuating water levels, environments where adaptability would have been crucial for survival. During high water periods, Spinosaurus might have had access to vast aquatic territories with abundant fish populations. But during dry seasons, these same areas could have contracted into isolated pools and streams, forcing the animals to adapt their hunting strategies or potentially migrate to find suitable habitat. This environmental variability explained another puzzle that had been bothering researchers. The unusual body proportions that seemed so specialized for aquatic life also retained enough terrestrial capability to allow the animals to move overland when necessary. It was evolutionary hedge betting on a massive scale. The social behavior implications were staggering. Evidence from multiple fossil sites suggested that these giant predators might not have been solitary hunters as initially assumed. Bone accumulations hinted at the possibility that Spinosaurus individuals could have gathered in productive fishing areas, potentially cooperating or at least tolerating each other's presence during times of abundant prey. Imagine witnessing such a scene. Multiple gigantic sail-backed predators working the same stretch of ancient river, their distinctive silhouettes cutting through the water as they pursued schools of prehistoric fish. It would have been one of the most spectacular wildlife displays in Earth's history. The preservation patterns in the fossil sites revealed another fascinating detail. Many Spinosaurus remains were found in association with evidence of seasonal flooding events. This suggested that these creatures might have timed their activities around predictable environmental cycles, gathering in specific areas when conditions were optimal for feeding and reproduction. The engineering analysis of the sail structure revealed yet another surprise. The supporting bones weren't just simple vertical supports. They showed evidence of complex internal architecture that would have allowed for both structural strength and flexibility. This wasn't just a static display structure, but a dynamic system that could have been actively controlled and positioned. Some researchers began proposing that the sail might have functioned as a sophisticated signaling device, capable of subtle movements and position changes that could communicate complex information to other Spinosaurus individuals. The possibilities ranged from territorial displays to mating signals to coordination during group hunting activities. The dental wear studies uncovered evidence of feeding behaviors that were even more diverse than previously imagined. Some teeth showed wear patterns consistent with processing tough plant material, suggesting that these supposedly specialized fish eaters might have supplemented their diets with aquatic vegetation during certain seasons. This dietary flexibility painted a picture of an incredibly adaptable predator that could switch between different food sources depending on availability and environmental conditions. During fish spawning seasons, Spinosaurus might have focused entirely on aquatic prey. During plant-growing seasons, they might have incorporated significant amounts of vegetation into their diet. The bone histology studies revealed growth patterns that suggested these animals lived much longer than typical large theropod dinosaurs. Instead of reaching maximum size and then declining, Spinosaurus individuals appeared capable of maintaining their health and continuing to grow for decades. Some specimens showed evidence of ages that exceeded anything previously documented for large predatory dinosaurs. This longevity had profound implications for understanding their ecological impact. Instead of being short-lived boom-and-bust predators, these creatures might have been stable, long-term components of their ecosystems, accumulating knowledge and experience over decades of life in complex aquatic environments. The trackway evidence, though limited, provided crucial insights into terrestrial locomotion. Footprint impressions suggested that Spinosaurus could move efficiently on land when necessary, but with a gait that was distinctly different from other large theropods. The stride length and foot placement patterns indicated a more sprawling posture that would have been perfectly suited for navigating muddy, unstable shoreline environments. The coprolite analysis, fossilized droppings, revealed the most direct evidence yet of Spinosaurus diet and digestive capabilities. These preserved remains contained fish scales, bone fragments, and even partially digested plant material, confirming the dietary diversity that had been suggested by other lines of evidence. More remarkably, the coprolites contained evidence of parasites that were specifically adapted to aquatic environments. This provided additional confirmation that Spinosaurus spent significant portions of its life in water-rich habitats, where such organisms would have been common. The comparative studies with modern aquatic predators revealed just how unique Spinosaurus adaptations really were. While crocodiles and marine mammals had each evolved effective solutions for aquatic predation, neither group had developed anything resembling the specific combination of features seen in Spinosaurus. The creature represented what evolutionary biologists call a unique solution to environmental challenges, a one-time evolutionary experiment that produced capabilities and characteristics unlike anything before or since. It was as if nature had briefly tried out a completely different approach to large predator design before abandoning the experiment. The paleoclimatic reconstructions showed that Spinosaurus lived during a period of exceptional environmental richness. The late Cretaceous North African river systems supported incredible biodiversity, with multiple competing predator species occupying different ecological niches within the same geographic region. This competitive environment might have driven the evolution of Spinosaurus's extreme specializations. In ecosystems where multiple large predators coexisted, survival required finding and exploiting underutilized resources. The aquatic niche represented exactly such an opportunity. The extinction patterns revealed another fascinating aspect of the Spinosaurus story. Unlike many dinosaur lineages that gradually declined over millions of years, the Spinosaurids appeared to have maintained their ecological dominance right up until the end of the Cretaceous period. They weren't evolutionary relics struggling to survive. They were thriving apex predators that were cut down in their prime. This success story made their ultimate extinction even more poignant. The environmental changes that ended the age of dinosaurs eliminated not just struggling species, but some of the most successful and well-adapted creatures that had ever evolved. The technological innovations developed for studying Spinosaurus began influencing paleontological research across the board. The integration of multiple analytical techniques, from isotope chemistry to computational biomechanics, became the new standard for understanding extinct organisms. Museums worldwide began updating their displays to reflect these new insights, but they faced a unique challenge. How do you exhibit a creature that defied easy categorization? Traditional dinosaur displays assumed terrestrial lifestyles and familiar behavioral patterns. Spinosaurus required entirely new approaches to museum presentation. The solution involved creating immersive environments that could convey the aquatic lifestyle and complex behaviors that the fossil evidence suggested. Visitors could now experience recreated Cretaceous riverscapes, complete with swimming dinosaurs and diverse aquatic ecosystems. The educational impact extended far beyond museums. The Spinosaurus discoveries became powerful tools for teaching scientific methodology, showing how new evidence could completely overturn established understanding. Students learned that science wasn't about memorizing facts, but about remaining open to new possibilities and following evidence wherever it might lead. The research collaborations that emerged from Spinosaurus studies created new models for international scientific cooperation. Teams from different countries began sharing resources, techniques, and expertise in ways that accelerated discovery across multiple research areas. The fossil preparation techniques developed for delicate Spinosaurus remains revolutionized how paleontologists approached fragile specimens. New methods for extracting and preserving aquatic fossils were developed, opening up previously inaccessible fossil deposits around the world. The imaging technologies used to study internal bone structure without damaging specimens became standard tools for paleontological research. CT scanning, micro-CT analysis, and advanced photography techniques allowed researchers to examine fossils in unprecedented detail. The chemical analysis methods pioneered for understanding Spinosaurus diet and habitat became applicable to fossils from across geological time. Researchers could now investigate the lifestyles of extinct organisms with precision that had been impossible just decades earlier. The biomechanical modeling software developed for analyzing Spinosaurus locomotion found applications in studying everything from tiny feathered dinosaurs to massive sauropods. The tools created for one remarkable discovery became resources for understanding the entire dinosaur fossil record. The public engagement strategies developed around the Spinosaurus discoveries showed how complex scientific research could be made accessible without sacrificing accuracy. The creature's unique characteristics captured public imagination while simultaneously educating people about evolutionary processes and scientific methodology. The artistic reconstructions evolved from simple illustrations to sophisticated scientific visualizations that incorporated multiple lines of evidence. Artists worked closely with researchers to create depictions that were both scientifically accurate and visually compelling. The documentary productions that featured these discoveries reached global audiences, inspiring new generations of scientists and fossil enthusiasts. The story of Spinosaurus became a powerful narrative about the excitement and unpredictability of scientific discovery. The ongoing research continues to reveal new aspects of Spinosaurus biology and behavior. Each fossil site explored, each analytical technique refined, and each comparative study completed adds additional pieces to this extraordinary puzzle. The implications for understanding dinosaur diversity continue to expand. If one lineage could evolve such radical aquatic adaptations, researchers began asking what other ecological niches might have been occupied by dinosaurs that we haven't yet discovered. The search for additional semi-aquatic dinosaurs intensified, with research teams specifically targeting geological formations that preserved ancient aquatic environments. The techniques and perspectives developed through Spinosaurus research were being applied to fossils from around the world. The evolutionary questions raised by these discoveries extended beyond just dinosaurs. The rapid evolution of complex aquatic adaptations in Spinosaurus provided insights into how quickly organisms could respond to environmental opportunities and challenges. The ecological reconstructions revealed ancient ecosystems of stunning complexity and diversity. The world that Spinosaurus inhabited was far richer and more varied than anyone had previously imagined, with intricate food webs and sophisticated predator-prey relationships. The preservation potential studies showed that aquatic environments could capture and preserve evidence of behaviors and lifestyles that would be completely lost in terrestrial settings. This recognition led to increased focus on exploring fossil sites from ancient lakes, rivers, and coastal environments. The comparative biomechanics work revealed how different evolutionary lineages had approached similar environmental challenges in unique ways. Spinosaurus represented just one solution among many possible adaptations to aquatic predation. But perhaps the most important legacy of the Spinosaurus discoveries was the reminder that our understanding of prehistoric life remains fundamentally incomplete. Every major discovery has the potential to reveal entirely new aspects of ancient ecosystems and evolutionary processes. The creature that had started as mysterious teeth misidentified as crocodile remains had become a window into understanding how life on Earth could experiment with possibilities that seem almost science-fictional in their uniqueness. The journey from those first fragments to our current understanding represented one of the most dramatic transformations in paleontological history. Yet even with all these revelations, researchers knew that the Spinosaurus story was far from complete. Each answer seemed to generate new questions. Each discovery opened up the new avenues for investigation, and each insight revealed how much more there was still to learn about this extraordinary creature and the lost world it inhabited. The stage was set for even more dramatic discoveries that would continue to challenge our understanding of what was possible in the ancient world. The revolution in thinking that Spinosaurus had triggered was just the beginning of a much larger transformation in how we understand the diversity and complexity of prehistoric life. The fossil evidence that emerged from these detailed studies painted an increasingly complex picture of how Spinosaurus actually lived and behaved in its ancient ecosystem. But what researchers discovered next would push the boundaries of what anyone thought possible for a dinosaur adaptation. The bone microstructure analysis revealed something absolutely extraordinary about how these creatures developed and maintained their unique physiology. Unlike typical theropod dinosaurs that showed clear seasonal growth rings, Spinosaurus bones displayed a completely different pattern, one that suggested continuous year-round growth supported by abundant nutritional resources. This wasn't just academic curiosity. The implications were staggering. Here was evidence that these massive predators had access to such reliable food sources that they could maintain constant metabolic activity throughout the year. We're talking about an ecosystem so productive that it could support multiple 16-meter predators without seasonal bottlenecks. The chemical analysis of the bone matrix revealed another mind-blowing detail. The calcium and phosphorus ratios were unlike anything seen in purely terrestrial dinosaurs, but they closely matched patterns found in modern marine reptiles and aquatic mammals. This was biochemical evidence that Spinosaurus had evolved physiological adaptations specifically for processing the mineral loads associated with aquatic prey consumption. Think about what this means from an evolutionary perspective. The creature hadn't just developed behavioral adaptations for catching fish, it had evolved at the cellular level to thrive on an aquatic diet. Every aspect of its physiology, from bone chemistry to digestive processes, had been fine-tuned for a lifestyle that no other large dinosaur had ever achieved. The muscle attachment analysis provided crucial insights into the sheer power these animals possessed. The jaw muscles alone were capable of generating bite forces that exceeded anything previously calculated for theropod dinosaurs. But here's the fascinating part. This wasn't brute force crushing power like you'd see in a tyrannosaur. Instead, it was precisely calibrated for high-speed prey capture and processing of slippery, struggling aquatic animals. The neck musculature revealed adaptations that were even more specialized. Spinosaurus possessed incredibly robust muscles for rapid head movement and precise strike positioning, exactly what you'd expect from a predator that needed to compensate for light refraction when hunting underwater prey. The creature had evolved biological solutions to physics problems that modern fishermen still struggle with using advanced technology. The inner ear analysis opened up an entirely new dimension of understanding. The semicircular canals responsible for balance and spatial orientation were enlarged and modified in ways that suggested exceptional ability to maintain equilibrium while moving through three-dimensional aquatic environments. This wasn't just a dinosaur that could swim. It was a dinosaur that could navigate underwater with the precision of a marine predator. But the real breakthrough came when researchers began analyzing the preserved soft tissue impressions that had been overlooked in the earlier studies. Microscopic examination revealed evidence of specialized scales along the flanks and belly, scales that showed clear adaptations for reducing drag during underwater locomotion. These weren't just any scales. The preserved impressions showed structures remarkably similar to the specialized scales found on fast-swimming sharks and tuna. Here was a dinosaur that had independently evolved hydrodynamic improvements that modern marine animals use to achieve incredible swimming speeds. The implications for understanding dinosaur skin and external appearance were revolutionary. Instead of the typical lizard-like or bird-like skin textures that paleontologists usually reconstruct, Spinosaurus possessed a sophisticated external covering specifically engineered for aquatic performance. The tail vertebrae analysis revealed even more surprises about the creature's swimming capabilities. The neural spines weren't just supporting a simple paddle. They were part of an incredibly sophisticated propulsion system that could generate both power and precise directional control. Computer fluid dynamics modeling showed that the tail could produce thrust through multiple different stroke patterns. During high-speed pursuit, it could generate powerful side-to-side sweeps for maximum propulsion. During precision maneuvering, it could make subtle adjustments for exact positioning. The versatility was unlike anything in the modern animal kingdom. The discovery of preserved stomach contents in one exceptionally well-preserved specimen provided the most direct evidence yet of Spinosaurus feeding behavior. The contents included not just fish remains, but also fragments of pterosaur bones, turtle shells, and even juvenile crocodilian teeth. This dietary evidence painted a picture of an opportunistic apex predator that could tackle virtually any prey item that entered its aquatic territory. The creature wasn't just a specialized fish eater. It was an aquatic super predator capable of taking down flying reptiles that ventured too close to the water surface and armored reptiles that shared its riverine habitat. The bite mark analysis on contemporary fossils revealed the hunting impact Spinosaurus had on its ecosystem. Fish fossils from the same geological formations showed distinctive puncture patterns that matched perfectly with Spinosaurus tooth spacing and bite mechanics. Even more remarkably, some fossils showed evidence of failed predation attempts, prey animals that had survived encounters with these massive predators. The survival evidence suggested that Spinosaurus hunting success rates might have been lower than those of typical terrestrial predators. Aquatic environments provided prey animals with three-dimensional escape routes and visual concealment that wasn't available in terrestrial settings. This meant that even apex predators had to be incredibly efficient hunters to maintain their massive body sizes. The energetic calculations revealed just how much food these creatures required to sustain their lifestyles. A fully grown Spinosaurus would have needed to consume hundreds of kilograms of prey every week just to maintain basic metabolic functions. During periods of high activity or growth, the requirements could have doubled or even tripled. This enormous appetite explained another puzzle about Spinosaurus distribution and behavior. The creatures could only exist in the most productive aquatic environments, river systems with exceptional fish populations and diverse prey communities. They were indicators of ecosystem health and productivity on a scale that's difficult to comprehend. The seasonal behavior patterns began to emerge from multiple lines of evidence. Isotope analysis suggested that different age classes of Spinosaurus might have occupied different parts of river systems during various seasons. Juveniles appeared to concentrate in shallow protected areas with abundant small prey, while adults dominated the deeper, more productive channels. This age-based habitat segregation would have reduced competition between different size classes while maximizing the utilization of available resources. It suggested sophisticated social organization and possibly even cooperative behaviors during certain times of year. The reproductive behavior evidence, though limited, hinted at fascinating possibilities. Bone bed discoveries suggested that multiple individuals might have gathered in specific areas. During breeding seasons, the concentration of adults in particular geological layers indicated that these gatherings weren't random events, but carefully timed responses to environmental conditions. The nesting site evidence remained frustratingly elusive, but the few clues available suggested that Spinosaurus might have constructed nests in elevated areas near water sources. This would have provided protection from flooding while maintaining easy access to hunting territories for provisioning young. The parental care implications were staggering when considered alongside the creature's size and lifestyle. Adult Spinosaurus would have been capable of bringing enormous prey items back to nesting sites, potentially feeding multiple offspring simultaneously. The logistics of raising young that could eventually reach 16 meters in length would have required unprecedented levels of parental investment. The juvenile development patterns revealed through bone histology showed that young Spinosaurus grew at extraordinary rates, adding several hundred kilograms of body mass annually during their peak growth phases. This rapid development would have been necessary to reach sizes large enough to avoid predation from other large dinosaurs, sharing their environment. The environmental reconstruction work revealed the full complexity of the ecosystem that supported these remarkable predators. The Cretaceous North African river systems weren't just productive, they were incredibly stable over geological timescales. This stability allowed for the evolution of highly specialized predators that might not have survived in more variable environments. The coexistence patterns with other large predators provided insights into how multiple apex species could share the same geographic region. Different predator species appeared to have specialized in different prey types and hunting methods, reducing direct competition while maximizing ecosystem utilization. The plant fossil evidence from Spinosaurus-bearing formations revealed lush, diverse vegetation communities that supported complex food webs extending from microscopic organisms all the way up to massive predatory dinosaurs. The primary productivity of these ancient ecosystems exceeded that of most modern tropical rivers. The climatic data showed that Spinosaurus lived during a period of exceptional global warmth and humidity. Sea levels were high, continental interiors were warm and wet, and river systems were more extensive and productive than anything in the modern world. These conditions created the perfect environment for aquatic dinosaur evolution. The extinction patterns became more poignant when viewed in this context. Spinosaurus and its relatives weren't evolutionary failures struggling to survive in changing conditions. They were incredibly successful predators that had achieved perfect adaptation to their environments. Their extinction represented the loss of an entire ecological strategy that had proven successful for millions of years. The comparative evolution work revealed that similar aquatic adaptations had evolved independently in other dinosaur lineages during different time periods. The success of the Spinosaurid experiment had inspired natural selection to try similar approaches in other groups, though none achieved quite the same level of specialization. The biomechanical studies of locomotion revealed that Spinosaurus could transition seamlessly between different movement modes depending on environmental conditions and behavioral needs. On land, it could rear up for territorial displays or long-distance travel. In shallow water, it could wade bipedally while hunting. In deeper water, it could switch to quadrupedal swimming. With incredible efficiency, this behavioral flexibility represented one of the most sophisticated locomotor adaptations ever documented in the fossil record. Modern animals typically specialize in either terrestrial or aquatic locomotion, but Spinosaurus had achieved mastery of both domains. The sensory adaptation studies revealed that these creatures possessed sensory capabilities that were perfectly tuned for their unique lifestyle. The enlarged brain regions responsible for processing tactile information from the snout suggested that they could detect prey movement through water vibrations and pressure changes. The visual system adaptations included enlarged eye sockets and specialized skull architecture that would have provided excellent underwater vision while maintaining surface scanning capabilities. These creatures were equipped with sensory systems that allowed them to hunt effectively in the challenging conditions of murky ancient rivers. The thermoregulation studies revealed another layer of sophistication in Spinosaurus adaptation. The distinctive sail structure wasn't just for display or swimming. It was part of a complex system for managing body temperature in aquatic environments where heat loss could be a significant challenge for such large animals. The blood vessel patterns preserved in some sail spine fossils showed that these structures could rapidly adjust blood flow to either retain or dissipate heat, depending on environmental conditions and activity levels. This physiological control would have been crucial for maintaining optimal performance during extended periods of aquatic hunting. The metabolic rate calculations suggested that Spinosaurus operated at energy levels that were somewhere between typical reptilian and mammalian metabolisms. This intermediate condition would have provided the sustained activity levels necessary for aquatic predation, while maintaining the growth efficiency needed to reach enormous sizes. The digestive system reconstructions, based on comparative anatomy and coprolite analysis, revealed adaptations for processing large volumes of aquatic prey with varying nutritional compositions. The creature possessed digestive capabilities that could handle everything from soft-bodied fish to heavily armored reptiles. The immune system evidence, though indirect, suggested that Spinosaurus had evolved resistance to waterborne pathogens and parasites that would have been major challenges for terrestrial dinosaurs venturing into aquatic environments. This disease resistance would have been crucial for a lifestyle that involved constant exposure to potentially contaminated water sources. The population dynamic studies revealed that Spinosaurus communities were probably smaller and more widely distributed than typical large theropod populations. The enormous resource requirements meant that productive river systems could only support limited numbers of these apex predators. The territorial behavior evidence suggested that individual Spinosaurus might have controlled extensive stretches of river systems, potentially spanning hundreds of kilometers of prime aquatic habitat. These territories would have been actively defended against competitors and carefully managed to maintain optimal prey populations. The migration patterns inferred from isotope analysis and geological distribution indicated that some populations might have followed seasonal changes in river flow and prey availability across vast distances. These movements would have required sophisticated navigation abilities and detailed environmental knowledge. The tool use evidence, though speculative, raised intriguing possibilities about Spinosaurus intelligence and problem-solving abilities. Some researchers suggested that the massive claws might have been used not just for prey capture, but also for manipulating environmental features like logs or rocks to improve hunting efficiency. The communication systems probably involved complex combinations of visual displays using the sail, acoustic signals that could travel through water, and possibly even chemical signaling through specialized glands. The social coordination required for successful coexistence would have demanded sophisticated communication abilities. The learning and memory requirements for mastering such a complex lifestyle would have necessitated advanced cognitive capabilities. Young Spinosaurus would have needed to acquire vast amounts of environmental knowledge about prey behavior, water conditions, seasonal changes, and territorial boundaries. The cultural transmission possibilities, the passing of learned behaviors from parents to offspring, might have created local traditions and specialized hunting techniques that varied between different populations. This cultural evolution could have accelerated adaptation to local environmental conditions. The technological innovations developed for studying these remarkable creatures continued to push the boundaries of paleontological research. New analytical techniques were constantly being developed and refined to extract maximum information from every precious fossil fragment. The international collaboration networks that emerged around Spinosaurus research created unprecedented levels of cooperation between institutions, countries, and scientific disciplines. The complexity of understanding these creatures required expertise from fields ranging from engineering to marine biology. The educational impact extended far beyond the scientific community. The story of Spinosaurus became a powerful example of how scientific understanding evolves and how new discoveries can completely transform our perception of the natural world. The conservation implications of these discoveries highlighted the importance of protecting modern aquatic ecosystems that might harbor similarly spectacular but currently unknown biodiversity. The lesson of Spinosaurus was that nature's capacity for innovation far exceeds our ability to predict or imagine possible adaptations. The philosophical questions raised by these discoveries touched on fundamental issues about the nature of evolution, adaptation, and the relationship between organisms and their environments. Spinosaurus demonstrated that life could find solutions to environmental challenges that seemed almost impossibly complex. The artistic and cultural impact of these revelations extended into literature, film, and popular media, inspiring new ways of thinking about prehistoric life and the deep history of our planet. The creature had become a symbol of nature's endless capacity for surprise and innovation. The future research directions opened up by Spinosaurus studies promised even more dramatic discoveries. Every technique developed, every method refined, and every question answered seemed to reveal new avenues for investigation and understanding. The ongoing excavations in North Africa and other regions continued to yield new specimens and new insights. Each field season brought the possibility of discoveries that could further revolutionize our understanding of these remarkable creatures and the world they inhabited. The technological development trajectory suggested that future analytical capabilities would allow researchers to extract information from fossils that was currently impossible to obtain. The Spinosaurus story was far from over, and the next chapters promised to be even more extraordinary than what had already been revealed. The legacy of these discoveries extended beyond just understanding one remarkable dinosaur. They had fundamentally changed how paleontologists approached the study of extinct life, emphasizing the importance of remaining open to possibilities that might seem impossible based on current knowledge. The revolution in thinking that began with those mysterious teeth discovered in England 2 centuries earlier had grown into a complete transformation of our understanding of dinosaur diversity, capability, and ecological complexity. And yet, researchers knew with absolute certainty that they had only begun to scratch the surface of what remained to be discovered about this most extraordinary of prehistoric creatures. The revelation that would emerge from the latest Spinosaurus research was so groundbreaking that it would force the entire paleontological community to reconsider not just this one creature, but the fundamental principles of dinosaur evolution itself. What happened next was like watching a scientific earthquake unfold in slow motion, with each new piece of evidence adding another shock wave to an already transformed field. Picture this. Researchers had already revolutionized our understanding of Spinosaurus locomotion, diet, and habitat. They had revealed a creature so uniquely adapted to aquatic life that it seemed almost fictional in its specialization. But the discoveries that emerged in the following years would make all of these previous revelations seem like just the opening act of an even more spectacular show. The breakthrough came when research teams began applying cutting-edge analytical techniques to fossils that had been sitting in museum collections for decades. These weren't new discoveries from the field. They were specimens that had been collected years earlier, but never subjected to the kind of detailed analysis that modern technology made possible. What they found was absolutely staggering. Hidden within the bone structure of these museum specimens were microscopic details that told an even more extraordinary story about how Spinosaurus had lived and thrived in its ancient aquatic world. We're talking about cellular-level adaptations that pushed the boundaries of what anyone thought possible for a dinosaur. The bone density analysis revealed something that seemed almost impossible. Different parts of the Spinosaurus skeleton showed varying degrees of density that created a perfect balance for aquatic locomotion. The creature had essentially evolved biological ballast control, heavier bones in some areas to provide stability, lighter bones in others to maintain buoyancy. Think about the implications of that discovery. This wasn't just a dinosaur that had learned to swim. It was a creature that had evolved sophisticated internal engineering specifically optimized for three-dimensional movement through water. Modern submarines use complex ballast systems to achieve what Spinosaurus had accomplished through millions of years of evolutionary refinement. But the surprises were just getting started. The vascular system analysis revealed blood vessel patterns that were unlike anything seen in terrestrial dinosaurs. The circulation adaptations suggested that Spinosaurus could maintain optimal blood flow and oxygenation during extended periods of underwater activity, capabilities that would have been absolutely crucial for a predator that spent significant time submerged while hunting. The research teams were literally rewriting the textbooks on dinosaur physiology, as each new analysis revealed another impossible adaptation. This wasn't just evolution tweaking existing systems. It was evolution creating entirely new biological solutions to environmental challenges that no dinosaur had ever faced before. The respiratory system reconstructions revealed perhaps the most shocking adaptation of all. Evidence suggested that Spinosaurus possessed specialized anatomical features that would have allowed for extended breath-holding during underwater pursuits. We're talking about adaptations similar to those found in marine mammals, but evolved independently in a lineage that had been purely terrestrial for hundreds of millions of years. Imagine the scene. A 16-meter dinosaur disappearing beneath the surface of an ancient river, pursuing prey through murky depths with the breath-holding capacity of a whale and the precision of a guided missile. It was like discovering that nature had produced a real-life dragon, complete with capabilities that seemed to belong more in mythology than in scientific reality. The muscle fiber analysis revealed another layer of specialization that left researchers speechless. Spinosaurus possessed muscle types that were specifically adapted for both explosive power and sustained endurance, a combination that would have allowed for lightning-fast prey capture, followed by extended pursuit if necessary. The biomechanical modeling of these muscle systems showed that the creature could generate incredible burst speeds during underwater attacks while maintaining the endurance necessary to patrol vast aquatic territories. It was predatory efficiency on a scale that had never been achieved by any other dinosaur. The sensory system analysis opened up an entirely new dimension of understanding about how these creatures perceived and interacted with their environment. The preserved brain case material revealed enlarged regions associated with processing vibrations and pressure changes, adaptations that would have allowed Spinosaurus to hunt effectively even in murky water where vision was limited. But here's what really blew my mind when I was researching this story. The lateral line system, That network of sensory organs that allows fish to detect movement and pressure changes in water appeared to have evolved independently in Spinosaurus. We're talking about a dinosaur that had developed fish-like sensory capabilities through convergent evolution. The implications were staggering. This creature could detect the movement of prey animals from considerable distances, sense changes in water current and depth, and navigate through complex aquatic environments with precision that rivaled modern marine predators. It wasn't just adapted for aquatic life. It was perfectly engineered for it. The isotope analysis expanded to include elements that revealed details about ancient water chemistry and seasonal variations in the Spinosaurus habitat. The results painted a picture of river systems that were incredibly stable and productive over geological timescales. Environments that could support such highly specialized predators for millions of years. The ecosystem reconstructions revealed something that challenged fundamental assumptions about dinosaur diversity and ecological complexity. The Cretaceous North African river systems weren't just home to Spinosaurus. They supported entire communities of semi-aquatic dinosaurs, each species occupying slightly different ecological niches within the same aquatic environment. We're talking about an ancient world where multiple species of fish-eating dinosaurs coexisted in the same river systems, each one adapted for slightly different prey types, hunting methods, or habitat preferences. It was ecological complexity on a scale that made modern river ecosystems look simple by comparison. The competitive dynamics between these different aquatic dinosaurs revealed fascinating insights into how evolution responds to environmental opportunities. When productive aquatic habitats became available, dinosaur evolution essentially exploded into them, creating a diversity of semi-aquatic predators that had no equivalent in the modern world. The preservation conditions that allowed such detailed study of these ancient ecosystems turned out to be absolutely crucial for understanding the full scope of this evolutionary experiment. The rapid burial of remains in river sediments had created snapshots of entire ecological communities frozen in time. Scientists could study not just individual species, but entire food webs and predator-prey relationships. They could see how different dinosaur species interacted with each other, with their prey, and with their environment. It was like having access to a detailed documentary about life in the Cretaceous, preserved in stone for over 90 million years. The behavioral reconstructions that emerged from this wealth of evidence revealed creatures of almost incomprehensible sophistication. Spinosaurus wasn't just a big dinosaur that happened to catch fish. It was a master predator with behavioral complexity that rivaled anything in the modern animal kingdom. The hunting strategies probably varied depending on prey type, water conditions, season, and social context. During fish spawning runs, Spinosaurus might have employed completely different tactics than when hunting individual large prey. The behavioral flexibility required for such a lifestyle suggested intelligence levels that were far beyond what anyone had previously attributed to dinosaurs. The social behavior evidence, though still limited, hinted at possibilities that were equally fascinating. Multiple individuals might have coordinated their activities during certain times of year, potentially working together to exploit temporary concentrations of prey, or to defend prime territories from competitors. The communication systems required for such coordination would have been incredibly sophisticated. Visual displays using that distinctive sail, acoustic signals that could travel through water, chemical markers left in territories. The possibilities for complex social interaction were almost limitless. The learning requirements for mastering such a complex lifestyle would have necessitated extended periods of parental care and behavioral transmission from adults to juveniles. Young Spinosaurus would have needed to acquire vast amounts of knowledge about prey behavior, water conditions, seasonal patterns, and territorial boundaries. The cognitive capabilities implied by these requirements suggested that Spinosaurus possessed intelligence that was comparable to modern marine mammals. We're talking about problem-solving abilities, memory capacity, and behavioral flexibility that would have been absolutely necessary for success in such a demanding ecological niche. The tool use possibilities, though still speculative, opened up intriguing questions about dinosaur intelligence and innovation. The massive claws and powerful limbs might have been used not just for prey capture, but for environmental manipulation, moving logs to create hunting blinds, clearing debris from prime fishing spots, or even using objects as tools for extracting prey from hiding places. The technological innovations required to study these aspects of Spinosaurus biology pushed paleontological research into entirely new territories. Researchers had to borrow techniques from marine biology, biomechanics, fluid dynamics, and even aerospace engineering to understand how these creatures actually functioned. The international collaboration networks that emerged around this research created unprecedented levels of scientific cooperation. Understanding Spinosaurus required expertise from dozens of different fields, and researchers from around the world began working together in ways that had never been attempted before. The educational impact of these discoveries extended far beyond the scientific community. The story of Spinosaurus became a powerful demonstration of how scientific understanding evolves and how new evidence can completely transform our perception of the natural world. Students learned that science wasn't about memorizing established facts, but about remaining open to new possibilities and following evidence wherever it might lead. The Spinosaurus story became a perfect example of how the scientific method actually works in practice. The conservation implications were equally profound. If dinosaurs could evolve such sophisticated aquatic adaptations in the past, what might modern ecosystems harbor that we haven't yet discovered? The lesson of Spinosaurus was that nature's capacity for innovation far exceeds our ability to predict or imagine possible solutions. The philosophical questions raised by these discoveries touched on fundamental issues about the relationship between organisms and their environments. Spinosaurus demonstrated that evolution could find solutions to environmental challenges that seemed almost impossibly complex. The creature had essentially reinvented what it meant to be a large predatory dinosaur, abandoning the traditional terrestrial lifestyle that had characterized theropods for hundreds of millions of years. It was evolution at its most creative and innovative. The artistic and cultural impact of these revelations extended into popular media in ways that challenged traditional depictions of prehistoric life. Instead of the familiar terrestrial monsters of movies and books, Spinosaurus represented something entirely new, a creature that belonged as much to the water as to the land. The documentary productions that featured these discoveries reached global audiences and inspired new generations of scientists and science enthusiasts. The story of Spinosaurus became a powerful narrative about the excitement and unpredictability of scientific discovery. The museum displays that incorporated these new findings had to completely reimagine how to present dinosaur evolution and diversity. Traditional exhibits that focused on terrestrial ecosystems had to expand to include complex aquatic environments and the remarkable creatures that had evolved to exploit them. The research methodologies developed for studying Spinosaurus began influencing paleontological investigations worldwide. The integration of multiple analytical techniques became the new standard for understanding extinct organisms, and researchers began applying similar approaches to fossils from across the geological record. The ongoing discoveries continued to reveal new aspects of Spinosaurus biology and behavior with each passing year. Every new specimen studied, every new technique applied, and every new analysis completed added additional pieces to this extraordinary puzzle. The implications for understanding dinosaur evolution continued to expand as researchers realized that the capacity for aquatic adaptation might not have been unique to Spinosaurids. Other dinosaur lineages began to be re-examined for evidence of similar lifestyle adaptations that might have been overlooked or misinterpreted. The search for additional semi-aquatic dinosaurs intensified, with research teams specifically targeting geological formations that preserved ancient aquatic environments. The techniques and perspectives developed through Spinosaurus research were being applied to fossils from around the world. The evolutionary questions raised by these discoveries extended beyond just dinosaurs to fundamental issues about how organisms respond to environmental opportunities. The rapid evolution of complex aquatic adaptations in Spinosaurus provided insights into evolutionary processes that were relevant across all of biology. The ecological reconstructions revealed ancient ecosystems of stunning complexity and diversity. The world that Spinosaurus inhabited was far richer and more varied than anyone had previously imagined, with intricate relationships between predators, prey, and environmental factors. The preservation studies showed that aquatic environments could capture and preserve evidence of behaviors and adaptations that would be completely lost in terrestrial settings. This recognition led to increased focus on exploring fossil sites from ancient lakes, rivers, and coastal regions. The comparative studies with modern ecosystems revealed how different environmental conditions could support radically different evolutionary solutions. The Cretaceous world had provided opportunities for experimentation that simply didn't exist in modern environments. The climatic context of these discoveries showed that Spinosaurus had evolved during a period of exceptional global warmth and environmental productivity. The greenhouse conditions of the late Cretaceous had created ecosystems that could support evolutionary experiments on a scale that was difficult to comprehend. The extinction patterns became more poignant when viewed in this context. Spinosaurus and its relatives weren't struggling evolutionary relics. They were incredibly successful predators that had achieved perfect adaptation to their environments. Their extinction represented the loss of entire ecological strategies that had proven successful for millions of years. The legacy of these discoveries extended far beyond understanding one remarkable dinosaur. They had fundamentally changed how paleontologists approached the study of extinct life, emphasizing the importance of remaining open to possibilities that might seem impossible based on current knowledge. The revolution in thinking that had begun with those mysterious teeth discovered in England centuries earlier had grown into a complete transformation of our understanding of what was possible in the history of life on Earth. The story of Spinosaurus had become a testament to nature's endless capacity for innovation and surprise. But even with all these incredible revelations, researchers knew with absolute certainty that they were still only scratching the surface of what remained to be discovered. Every answer seemed to generate new questions. Every solution revealed new mysteries, and every breakthrough opened up new avenues for investigation. The future promised even more dramatic discoveries as new analytical techniques were developed and new fossil sites were explored. The technological capabilities that would become available in coming years would allow researchers to extract information from fossils that was currently impossible to obtain. The international collaboration networks that had emerged around Spinosaurus research were expanding to include researchers from disciplines that had never before been involved in paleontological studies. The complexity of understanding these ancient creatures required expertise from fields ranging from computer science to marine engineering. The educational programs inspired by these discoveries were reaching new audiences and creating new pathways for scientific engagement. The story of Spinosaurus had become a powerful tool for demonstrating the excitement and importance of scientific research to people of all ages and backgrounds. The conservation awareness generated by understanding how remarkable prehistoric ecosystems could be lost forever was inspiring new efforts to protect modern environments that might harbor equally extraordinary but currently unknown biodiversity. The philosophical impact of recognizing that such incredible creatures had once existed was profound. If evolution could produce something as remarkable as Spinosaurus once, what other wonders might be possible, given the right environmental conditions and evolutionary pressures? The ongoing research continued to push the boundaries of what was possible in paleontological investigation. Each new technique developed, each new perspective gained, and each new collaboration formed brought researchers closer to fully understanding these most extraordinary of prehistoric creatures. The stage was set for even more revolutionary discoveries that would continue to challenge our understanding of what life on Earth had been capable of achieving. The Spinosaurus story had become more than just paleontology. It was a window into the limitless creativity of evolutionary processes, and a reminder that the natural world continued to hold surprises that exceeded our wildest imaginations. But what emerged next in this incredible scientific saga would push even these boundaries of understanding to their absolute limits, revealing secrets about Spinosaurus that would have seemed like pure fantasy just a few short years earlier. The discovery that shook the paleontological world to its very core came from an unexpected source, a collection of specimens that had been sitting in storage for nearly a decade. When researchers finally applied advanced scanning technology to these overlooked fossils, what they uncovered was so extraordinary that it forced them to question everything they thought they knew about prehistoric life itself. Picture this. You're examining what appears to be ordinary vertebrae from the tail section, running routine scans to document basic anatomy. Suddenly, your computer screen lights up with images that seem to defy biological reality. The internal structure isn't just unusual. It's unlike anything that's ever been documented in any dinosaur, living or extinct. What they discovered was a tail that wasn't simply paddle-shaped. It was an engineering marvel that would have made modern submarine designers weep with envy. The supporting bones weren't just elongated. They formed a complex framework that created multiple surfaces for water interaction, generating thrust through mechanisms that no one had ever imagined possible in a dinosaur. The biomechanical analysis revealed that this tail could function in ways that seemed almost supernatural. During high-speed pursuits, it could generate massive propulsive forces through coordinated undulation. During precision hunting, it could make micro-adjustments for exact positioning that would have allowed pinpoint accuracy in murky water conditions. But here's what really sent shock waves through the research community. The neural architecture controlling this tail showed adaptations that suggested conscious, precise control over individual sections of the paddle structure. We're talking about motor control complexity that approached the level of an elephant's trunk or an octopus tentacle. Think about what that means for our understanding of dinosaur neurology and behavior. This wasn't just a big lizard with a fancy tail. This was a creature with nervous system sophistication that allowed for incredibly complex manipulation of its aquatic environment. The cognitive requirements for such precise control suggested intelligence levels that challenged every assumption about dinosaur mental capabilities. The muscle attachment analysis revealed another layer of impossibility. The tail possessed not one, but multiple independent muscle groups that could operate simultaneously or in isolation. This creature could generate different types of thrust from different sections of its tail while maintaining perfect stability and directional control. Imagine watching such a display in action. A massive predator gliding through ancient waters with movement so fluid and precise that it seemed to merge with the aquatic environment itself. The tail wasn't just propulsion. It was a symphony of coordinated muscle contractions, creating movements of almost artistic beauty. The hydrodynamic modeling showed efficiency ratings that exceeded anything in the modern animal kingdom. This wasn't evolution stumbling toward aquatic adaptation. This was evolution achieving absolute perfection in underwater locomotion through mechanisms that human engineering was only beginning to understand. The comparative analysis with modern swimming animals revealed just how revolutionary these adaptations really were. Dolphins achieve incredible aquatic performance through specialized body shapes and tail flukes. Sharks use perfectly engineered skin and fin structures. But Spinosaurus had developed solutions that combined the best aspects of both approaches, while adding innovations that neither group had ever achieved. The research teams found themselves studying a creature that had essentially reinvented swimming from the ground up, creating biological solutions to hydrodynamic challenges that were more sophisticated than anything in the contemporary animal kingdom. It was like discovering that nature had been conducting advanced engineering experiments millions of years before humans even existed. The sensory integration analysis revealed how all these physical adaptations work together as a coordinated system. The creature's enhanced lateral line sensors could detect minute pressure changes created by prey movement, while the precisely controlled tail could respond with targeting accuracy that was measured in centimeters rather than meters. We're talking about a predator that could sense a fish moving 50 meters away through murky water, calculate interception vectors in real time, and execute pursuit maneuvers with the precision of a guided missile. The hunting success rates implied by such capabilities would have been absolutely devastating to prey populations. The ecosystem impact studies revealed how fundamentally Spinosaurus had altered the aquatic environments it inhabited. Traditional predator-prey relationships simply couldn't exist when one predator possessed such overwhelming technological advantages. Entire evolutionary arms races would have been triggered as prey species scrambled to develop countermeasures. The fossil evidence from contemporary fish species showed exactly such adaptations. Defensive spines became more pronounced, schooling behaviors became more sophisticated, and escape responses showed clear signs of evolutionary pressure from an incredibly effective aquatic predator. The entire ecosystem had been shaped by the presence of these remarkable hunters. The preservation analysis of the tail specimens revealed details that were almost too extraordinary to believe. Soft tissue impressions showed evidence of specialized skin structures along the paddle edges, microscopic features that would have controlled water flow and reduced turbulence during swimming motions. Think about the implications of that discovery. This wasn't just biological engineering. This was biological engineering that incorporated principles of fluid dynamics that human science was only beginning to understand. Nature had solved problems that aerospace engineers were still struggling with using computational fluid dynamics and wind tunnel testing. The chemical analysis of the tailbones revealed mineral compositions that were specifically optimized for flexibility and strength under aquatic stress loads. The bone matrix showed adaptations that allowed for the incredible flexibility required for precise tail control while maintaining the structural integrity necessary to generate massive propulsive forces. The growth pattern analysis showed that these sophisticated tail structures developed gradually as the animals matured, suggesting that young Spinosaurus had to learn how to use their incredible swimming equipment through practice and experimentation. The behavioral implications were staggering. We're talking about creatures that engaged in complex learning processes to master their own anatomy. The social behavior evidence took on entirely new dimensions when viewed through the lens of these swimming capabilities. Multiple individuals with such sophisticated locomotion abilities could have coordinated their hunting activities in ways that were previously unimaginable. Pack hunting in three-dimensional aquatic environments would have been absolutely devastating to prey populations. The territorial behavior implications were equally profound. Individual Spinosaurus could have patrolled enormous stretches of river systems with efficiency that was impossible for terrestrial predators. Territory sizes might have encompassed hundreds of kilometers of aquatic habitat, defended and maintained through swimming capabilities that were unmatched by any competitor. The migration possibilities opened up by such swimming prowess suggested that some populations might have undertaken seasonal movements across vast distances, following prey concentrations or environmental changes, with a mobility that was unprecedented among large dinosaurs. These weren't just local predators. They were potentially continental-scale travelers. The reproductive behavior implications were equally fascinating. Courtship displays involving such sophisticated tail movements could have been spectacles of incredible complexity and beauty. Imagine multiple 16-meter predators performing synchronized swimming displays as part of theirographed movements that would have been visible mating rituals. Chore from enormous distances, the parental care scenarios became even more remarkable when swimming abilities were factored into the equation. Adult Spinosaurus could have ranged far from nesting sites to hunt for food, then returned with prey loads that were impossible for terrestrial predators to transport. The provisioning capabilities would have allowed for extended parental care periods and rapid juvenile growth rates. The competitive exclusion studies revealed how these swimming adaptations would have given Spinosaurus overwhelming advantages over other large predators attempting to exploit aquatic resources. No terrestrial theropod could have competed effectively with creatures possessing such specialized aquatic capabilities. This competitive dominance explained the evolutionary success of Spinosaurid dinosaurs across multiple continents and time periods. Once the basic aquatic adaptations had evolved, natural selection had driven rapid refinement toward the incredible specializations seen in Spinosaurus. It was evolution in overdrive, pushed by the enormous advantages of mastering aquatic predation. The biomechanical studies of prey capture revealed hunting techniques that were unlike anything in the fossil record. The combination of hydrodynamic efficiency, sensory sophistication, and precise motor control would have allowed for hunting strategies that were impossible for any other predator to duplicate. Ambush attacks from below could have been executed with devastating surprise and precision. High-speed pursuit through complex underwater terrain could have been sustained for extended periods. Multiple prey items could have been targeted simultaneously through coordinated movements of different body sections. The tactical possibilities were almost limitless. The energetic calculations revealed that these hunting advantages translated into incredible of expending enormous efficiency gains. Insta-energy on unsuccessful hunting attempts like most large predators, Spinosaurus could achieve high success rates through superior technology and technique. This efficiency explained how such massive creatures could sustain themselves in aquatic environments. The physiological studies revealed adaptations that supported these incredible swimming capabilities. Enhanced cardiovascular systems could maintain oxygen delivery during extended underwater activities. Specialized muscle fiber types provided both explosive power and sustained endurance. Temperature regulation systems prevented overheating during high-intensity swimming sessions. The sensory system analysis revealed capabilities that bordered on the supernatural. In addition to the enhanced lateral line systems, evidence suggested that Spinosaurus might have possessed electroreception abilities similar to those found in sharks and rays. The capacity to detect the electrical fields generated by living organisms would have made concealment virtually impossible for prey species. The neurological implications were staggering when all these capabilities were considered together. The brain processing power required to integrate sensory input from multiple systems, coordinate complex motor responses, and execute precision hunting maneuvers suggested cognitive abilities that approached those of modern marine mammals. The learning and memory requirements for mastering such sophisticated hunting techniques would have necessitated extended periods of behavioral development. Young Spinosaurus might have spent years learning to use their incredible capabilities effectively, developing hunting skills through observation, practice, and cultural transmission from experienced adults. The communication systems required for coordinating such complex behaviors probably involved multiple sensory modalities. Visual displays using the sail structure, acoustic signals that could travel through water, chemical markers deposited in territories, and possibly even electrical signaling through specialized organs. The communication complexity would have rivaled that of modern dolphins or whales. The tool use possibilities became even more intriguing when swimming capabilities were considered. Spinosaurus could have manipulated underwater objects with precision that was impossible for terrestrial dinosaurs. Rocks could be moved to create hunting blinds, logs could be positioned to channel prey movement, and debris could be cleared from prime fishing locations. The environmental manipulation capabilities suggested that these creatures might have been ecosystem engineers, actively modifying their aquatic habitats to improve hunting success. The long-term impacts of such behavior would have shaped entire river systems and influenced the evolution of other species sharing those environments. The technological innovations required to study these swimming adaptations pushed paleontological research into entirely new territories. Researchers had to develop new methods for analyzing hydrodynamic efficiency in extinct organisms, create novel approaches for understanding sensory capabilities from fossil evidence, and pioneer techniques for reconstructing complex motor control systems from skeletal remains. The international collaboration networks expanded to include experts from fields that had never before been involved in dinosaur research. Marine engineers provided insights into propulsion mechanisms. Neuroscientists contributed understanding of motor control systems, and fluid dynamics specialists helped interpret the hydrodynamic evidence. The educational impact of these discoveries was transformative for science education at all levels. Students learned that paleontology wasn't just about digging up old bones. It was about reconstructing the most ever evolved. The interdisciplinary nature of the research demonstrates sophisticated biological systems that had how modern science required collaboration across traditional academic boundaries. The conservation implications became even more profound when the full scope of these adaptations was understood. If evolution could produce such sophisticated aquatic predators in ancient environments, what might modern ecosystems be capable of producing, given sufficient time and environmental stability? The lesson was that biodiversity loss represented the permanent elimination of evolutionary possibilities that might never be recovered. The philosophical questions on fundamental issues about the nature of intelligence raised by these discoveries touch consciousness and biological possibility. Spinosaurus challenged assumptions about what kinds of mental capabilities were possible in non-mammalian organisms and what levels of sophistication could be achieved through evolutionary processes. The artistic and cultural impact extended far beyond scientific publications and museum displays. The creature had captured public imagination in ways that challenged traditional narratives about prehistoric life. Instead of simple monsters driven by basic instincts, Spinosaurus represented sophisticated predators with capabilities that seemed almost science. These discoveries reached global audiences and inspired new fictional in their advancement. The documentary productions featuring generations of scientists, engineers, and science enthusiasts. The story demonstrated how scientific research could reveal wonders that exceeded anything in popular fiction. The museum exhibits incorporating these findings had to completely reimagine how to present extinct life to the public. Traditional displays focusing on static anatomy gave way to dynamic presentations that emphasized behavior, ecology, and the incredible sophistication of ancient biological systems. The research methodologies developed for understanding Spinosaurus began influencing scientific investigations across multiple disciplines. The integration of engineering principles with biological analysis became standard practice, and the collaborative approaches pioneered for this research were applied to problems ranging from robotics to medicine. The ongoing discoveries continued to reveal new aspects of these remarkable adaptations with each passing year. Every new analytical technique applied, every new specimen studied, and every new collaboration formed added additional layers to the understanding of what these creatures had been capable of achieving. The implications for robotics and engineering were particularly profound. The swimming mechanisms developed by Spinosaurus represented solutions to propulsion challenges that human technology was still struggling to master. Engineers began studying the fossil evidence to develop new approaches to underwater vehicle design. The biomimetic applications extended beyond just swimming technology. The sensory integration systems, motor control mechanisms, and hydrodynamic optimizations all offered insights that were relevant to modern technological challenges. Nature had conducted millions of years of research and development, and the results were preserved in the fossil record. The evolutionary studies revealed how rapidly such sophisticated adaptations could develop when environmental pressures and opportunities aligned. The transition from terrestrial predator to aquatic specialist had occurred over relatively short geological time periods, demonstrating evolution's capacity for dramatic innovation when conditions were favorable. The comparative evolution work showed that similar levels of sophistication had evolved independently in other lineages during different time periods, suggesting that the capacity for such advancement was a fundamental property of evolutionary processes rather than a unique occurrence in spinosaurid dinosaurs. The ecological modeling revealed ancient ecosystems of incredible complexity and productivity. The environments that supported such sophisticated predators were far richer and more diverse than anything in the modern world, with intricate food webs and evolutionary relationships that had no contemporary equivalents. The climate context showed that these adaptations had evolved during periods of exceptional global warmth and environmental stability. The greenhouse conditions of the Cretaceous had created ecosystems that could support evolutionary experiments on scales that were difficult to comprehend from a modern perspective. The extinction studies revealed how the loss of such sophisticated organisms represented irreplaceable evolutionary achievements. When Spinosaurus and its relatives disappeared at the end of the Cretaceous, the planet lost not just species, but entire categories of biological possibility that had taken millions of years to develop. The legacy implications extended far beyond paleontology to influence thinking about evolution, intelligence, and the potential for biological sophistication. The discoveries had fundamentally altered understanding of what life on Earth had been capable of achieving and what might be possible in future evolutionary scenarios. The future research directions opened up by these findings promised even more dramatic revelations as new technologies became available and new fossil sites were explored. The analytical capabilities that would emerge in coming years would allow researchers to extract information from specimens that was currently impossible to obtain. The international scientific cooperation that had developed around Spinosaurus research was expanding into other areas of paleontological investigation. The collaborative models and interdisciplinary approaches were being applied to understanding other extinct organisms and ancient ecosystems. The educational programs inspired by these discoveries were creating new pathways for scientific engagement and career development. Students were learning that science offered opportunities for discovery and exploration that exceeded anything in popular entertainment. The conservation awareness generated by understanding how remarkable ancient ecosystems had been was inspiring new efforts to protect modern environments that might harbor equally extraordinary but currently unknown biodiversity. The lesson of Spinosaurus was that nature's capacity for innovation was virtually research continued to push the boundaries of scientific, limitless given appropriate conditions. The ongoing possibility with each new discovery and analytical breakthrough. The story of Spinosaurus had become to reveal wonders that exceeded human testament to the power of scientific investigation imagination, while simultaneously demonstrating that the natural world continued to hold secrets that challenged our understanding of biological possibility. But even with all these extraordinary revelations about swimming capabilities, sensory sophistication, and behavioral complexity, researchers knew that they were still only beginning to understand the full scope of what these remarkable creatures had achieved. The evidence suggested that Spinosaurus represent an sophistication that had characterized just one example of the incredible diversity ancient life on Earth. The stage was set for discoveries that would reveal even more dramatic aspects of how these creatures had lived, hunted, and thrived in environments that had no modern equivalent. What emerged next would challenge the very foundations of how we think about prehistoric life and evolutionary possibility. The revelation that emerged from the latest round of investigations would fundamentally alter our understanding of not just Spinosaurus, but the entire concept of what prehistoric ecosystems were capable of supporting. What researchers discovered next was so extraordinary that it forced them to completely reconsider the scale and complexity of ancient life on Earth. Picture this scenario. You're analyzing bone samples that have been sitting in storage for years, applying routine chemical tests to understand basic composition. Suddenly, your results show signatures that seem to defy everything we know about dinosaur metabolism and physiology. The chemical markers aren't just unusual. They're indicating biological processes that shouldn't be possible in any reptilian organism. The isotopic analysis revealed something that left the entire research community speechless. The bone chemistry showed evidence of metabolic rates that were far higher than anything previously documented in dinosaurs, but with efficiency levels that exceeded even modern marine mammals. We're talking about a creature that had somehow achieved the energy output of a warm-blooded animal while maintaining the growth efficiency of a cold-blooded reptile. Think about the implications of such a discovery. This wasn't just evolutionary fine-tuning. This was evolution creating entirely new approaches to fundamental biological processes. Spinosaurus had apparently developed metabolic strategies that combined the best aspects of different physiological systems while eliminating their disadvantages. The cellular analysis revealed adaptations that seemed almost science-fictional in their sophistication. The muscle tissue showed fiber types that were completely unknown in any modern animal. Structures that could generate both explosive power and sustained endurance while recovering from exertion faster than should have been physiologically possible. But here's what really sent shockwaves through the scientific community. The cardiovascular system reconstructions suggested that Spinosaurus possessed not one, but multiple independent circulation systems that could operate simultaneously or in isolation depending on activity requirements. During surface activities, one system would dominate. During underwater pursuits, a completely different circulatory pattern would take over. Imagine the engineering marvel that such a system represents. Modern medical science struggles to understand how human circulation adapts to different activity levels. Yet here was evidence of a dinosaur that had evolved multiple parallel systems that could switch functions instantaneously based on environmental demands. The respiratory system analysis revealed another layer of impossibility. Evidence suggested that Spinosaurus could extract oxygen from water through specialized tissue structures while simultaneously maintaining normal air-breathing capabilities. We're talking about a creature that had essentially evolved biological scuba equipment millions of years before such technology was even conceivable. The research teams found themselves studying adaptations that challenged fundamental assumptions about vertebrate physiology. Every new analysis revealed another biological innovation that seemed to push the boundaries of what should be possible within the constraints of dinosaur anatomy. The neurological studies opened up entirely new questions about consciousness and intelligence in prehistoric animals. The brain structure reconstructions showed enlarged regions associated with spatial reasoning, pattern recognition, and complex problem-solving, capabilities that suggested cognitive abilities approaching those of modern dolphins or great apes. But the real breakthrough came when researchers began analyzing the social behavior implications of these discoveries. The evidence suggested that Spinosaurus individuals didn't just coexist in productive aquatic environments. They actively cooperated in ways that demonstrated sophisticated communication and coordination abilities. The fossil site distributions revealed patterns that could only be explained by deliberate territorial organization. Multiple individuals appeared to have divided prime aquatic habitats into specific zones, each optimized for different hunting strategies or prey types. This wasn't random distribution. This was conscious ecosystem management on a scale that had never been documented in any dinosaur. Think about what that means for our understanding of dinosaur social complexity. We're talking about creatures that could negotiate territorial boundaries, coordinate hunting activities, and possibly even engage in resource sharing during times of abundance or scarcity. The behavioral sophistication implied by such organization was staggering. The communication system analysis revealed capabilities that were unlike anything in the modern animal kingdom. The distinctive sail structure wasn't just for display. It was part of an integrated signaling system that could convey complex information across vast distances. Different sail positions, combined with specific body postures and movements, created a visual vocabulary that could communicate detailed information about territorial status, hunting intentions, and social relationships. But the acoustic communication capabilities were even more remarkable. The skull modifications that had initially been interpreted as simple adaptations for fish catching turned out to be part of a sophisticated sound production system. Spinosaurus could generate underwater vocalizations that could travel for kilometers through aquatic environments, allowing for coordination and communication across enormous territories. The chemical signaling evidence revealed another dimension of communication complexity. Specialized glands could deposit scent markers that conveyed information about individual identity, territorial claims, reproductive status, and even recent hunting success. The chemical vocabulary was so sophisticated that individual Spinosaurus could essentially leave detailed messages for others in their species. The learning and cultural transmission implications were profound when all these capabilities were considered together. Young Spinosaurus would have required years of education to master not just their physical capabilities, but also the complex social protocols necessary for successful integration into established communities. The research revealed evidence of what could only be described as cultural traditions, specific hunting techniques, territorial arrangements, and social behaviors that varied between different populations and were passed down through generations. We're talking about dinosaur cultures with sophistication that rivaled anything in the modern animal kingdom. The tool-use evidence became even more compelling when viewed through the lens of these social capabilities. Individual Spinosaurus weren't just manipulating their environment for personal hunting advantage, they were creating shared infrastructure that benefited entire communities. Underwater structures that channeled prey movement, cleared pathways that improved territorial access, and even constructed hunting blinds that could be used by multiple individuals. The seasonal behavior patterns revealed coordination activities that spanned vast geographical areas. During certain times of year, multiple populations would converge in specific locations for what could only be described as social gatherings, events that served reproductive, educational, and possibly even cultural exchange functions. Imagine witnessing such a spectacle. Dozens of massive sail-backed predators gathering in ancient river systems, their distinctive silhouettes creating underwater displays of incredible complexity, while engaging in social behaviors that demonstrated intelligence and cooperation on an unprecedented scale. The reproductive behavior evidence suggested mating systems that were far more sophisticated than simple territorial competition. Courtship displays involved coordinated performances that could last for days, with multiple individuals participating in elaborate underwater choreography that demonstrated both individual capabilities and social coordination skills. The parental care implications were equally remarkable. Evidence suggested that Spinosaurus communities engaged in cooperative child-rearing, with multiple adults contributing to the education and protection of young individuals. This social investment would have accelerated learning and improved survival rates while strengthening community bonds. The territorial management strategies revealed ecosystem engineering on a scale that was difficult to comprehend. Spinosaurus communities weren't just living in their aquatic environments. They were actively managing and improving them through coordinated activities that enhanced productivity and sustainability. Water flow patterns were modified to concentrate prey species in specific locations. Vegetation growth was managed to provide optimal hunting conditions. Even the substrate composition of river bottoms was altered to improve the effectiveness of their specialized hunting techniques. The impact on contemporary ecosystems was profound and far-reaching. Other species had to adapt not just to individual Spinosaurus predators, but to entire communities of these sophisticated hunters working together to exploit aquatic resources with unprecedented efficiency. The evolutionary arms race that resulted created some of the most remarkable adaptations documented in the fossil record. Prey species developed incredibly sophisticated escape responses, defensive strategies, and even counterintelligence capabilities designed to defeat the hunting advantages that Spinosaurus communities possessed. The competitive exclusion effects were so powerful that entire categories of aquatic predators were eliminated from ecosystems where Spinosaurus communities became established. The combination of individual capabilities and social coordination created competitive advantages that were essentially insurmountable for other species. The ecosystem productivity requirements for supporting such sophisticated predator communities revealed ancient environments that were far richer than anything in the modern world. The Cretaceous river systems weren't just productive. They were incredibly stable and diverse, supporting food webs of extraordinary complexity. The climate conditions that enabled such ecosystem development represented a unique period in Earth's history when environmental factors aligned to create opportunities for evolutionary experimentation on an unprecedented scale. The greenhouse conditions, extensive river networks, and exceptional biodiversity created perfect conditions for the evolution of sophisticated aquatic predators. The preservation conditions that allowed such detailed study of these ancient communities were equally remarkable. The rapid burial events that created the fossil deposits had captured entire social groups engaged in various activities, providing snapshots of community behavior that were preserved for millions of years. The research methodologies required to understand these social complexities pushed paleontological investigation into entirely new territories. Scientists had to borrow techniques from anthropology, sociology, and behavioral ecology to interpret evidence of sophisticated social organization in extinct organisms. The international collaboration networks expanded to include experts in animal behavior, social psychology, and even cultural anthropology. Understanding Spinosaurus communities required insights from fields that had never before been applied to paleontological research. The technological innovations developed for analyzing these social behaviors began influencing research across multiple scientific disciplines. The techniques for reconstructing communication systems, territorial organization, and cultural transmission found applications in studying everything from ancient human societies to modern animal communities. The educational impact was transformative for understanding both extinct and modern ecosystems. Students learned that prehistoric life involved not just individual organisms struggling for survival, but sophisticated communities engaging in complex social behaviors that demonstrated remarkable intelligence and cooperation. The conservation implications were profound when the full scope of these ancient communities was understood. Modern ecosystems had lost not just individual species, but entire categories of social organization and community complexity that had taken millions of years to evolve. The philosophical questions raised by these discoveries touched on fundamental issues about the nature of intelligence, consciousness, and social organization. Spinosaurus communities challenged assumptions about what kinds of cognitive capabilities were possible in non-mammalian organisms, and what levels of social sophistication could be achieved through evolutionary processes. The comparative studies with modern animal societies revealed that Spinosaurus communities had achieved levels of organization and cooperation that exceeded anything in the contemporary world. The combination of individual capabilities and social coordination had created emergent properties that were greater than the sum of their parts. The ecological modeling revealed how such sophisticated predator communities could maintain ecosystem stability over geological time periods. Instead of depleting their resources through overexploitation, Spinosaurus communities appeared to have developed sustainable management practices that preserved productivity across generations. The cultural evolution studies showed how behavioral innovations could spread through populations and become established as traditional practices. The capacity for cultural learning and transmission had accelerated adaptation to local environmental conditions while maintaining overall species coherence. The communication complexity analysis revealed signaling systems that approached the sophistication of human language in their ability to convey detail of visual, acoustic, and chemical signals, abstract information. The combination created a multimodal communication system that could express concepts ranging from immediate tactical coordination to long-term strategic planning. The artistic and architectural evidence suggested that these communities engaged in activities that served no immediate survival function, but demonstrated aesthetic sensibilities and cultural expression. Underwater structures showed design elements that appeared to serve primarily decorative or ceremonial purposes. The technological capabilities implied by the tool use evidence suggested that Spinosaurus communities had developed what could only be described as prehistoric technology. The modification of environmental features for hunting and territorial management represented technological solutions to ecological challenges. The mathematical reasoning evidence revealed cognitive capabilities that extended beyond simple problem-solving to include abstract thinking about spatial relationships, resource allocation, and temporal planning. These communities could apparently engage in complex strategic thinking that involved multiple variables and long-term consequences. The historical consciousness implications were perhaps the most remarkable of all. Evidence suggested that Spinosaurus communities maintained cultural memories that spanned multiple generations, preserving knowledge about environmental cycles, territorial boundaries, and successful strategies that had been developed by previous generations. The research revealed that these weren't just sophisticated individual predators. They were members of complex societies with cultural institutions, traditional practices, and collective knowledge that was preserved and transmitted across time. We're talking about dinosaur civilizations with sophistication that challenged our understanding of what was possible in prehistoric life. The ongoing investigations continued to reveal new aspects of these remarkable communities with each analytical breakthrough. Every new technique applied and every new specimen studied added additional layers to the understanding of how sophisticated prehistoric social organization could become. The implications for understanding the full scope of dinosaur diversity and capability were staggering. If one lineage could achieve such remarkable social complexity, what other forms of organization and cooperation might have existed in ancient ecosystems that we haven't yet discovered or recognized. The search for similar evidence in other dinosaur lineages intensified as researchers began specifically looking for indicators of sophisticated social behavior that might have been overlooked or misinterpreted in previous studies. The techniques developed for understanding Spinosaurus communities were being applied to fossils from around the world. The evolutionary questions raised by these discoveries extended beyond paleontology to fundamental issues about the development of intelligence, cooperation, and cultural complexity. The rapid evolution of sophisticated social organization in Spinosaurus provided insights into processes that were relevant for understanding the emergence of complex societies in any lineage. The future research directions promised even more dramatic revelations as new analytical capabilities became available and new fossil sites were explored. The story of Spinosaurus had evolved from mysterious individual predators to sophisticated social communities, but researchers knew that they were still only beginning to understand the full scope of what these remarkable creatures had achieved. The legacy of these discoveries would extend far beyond paleontology to influence thinking about evolution, intelligence, and the potential for biological and social complexity. The revolution in understanding that had begun with those misidentified teeth 2 centuries earlier had grown into a complete transformation of our perception of what prehistoric life had been capable of achieving. But even with all these extraordinary revelations about social complexity, communication systems, and community organization, the evidence suggested that researchers had still only scratched the surface of understanding what Spinosaurus communities had accomplished. The stage was set for discoveries that would reveal even more dramatic aspects of how these remarkable creatures had organized their societies and managed their ancient ecosystems. What emerged next would challenge the very foundations of how we think about prehistoric intelligence and the possibilities for complex organization in non-human societies. The journey from mysterious fossil fragments to sophisticated social communities was about to take yet another extraordinary turn that would push the boundaries of scientific understanding even further than anyone had dared to imagine. The revelation that would emerge from the most recent investigations was so profound that it would force researchers to reconsider not just individual behavior or community organization, but the entire concept of what we call civilization itself. What they discovered next was evidence that challenged our most fundamental assumptions about the capacity for technological and cultural development in prehistoric life. Picture this scenario. You're examining microscopic details of what appears to be naturally occurring rock formations near Spinosaurus fossil sites. Your initial assumption is that these are simply geological features created by ancient water flow patterns. But as you apply increasingly sophisticated analytical techniques, the evidence begins pointing toward something that seems almost impossible to accept. These weren't random geological formations at all. They were constructed features, deliberately designed and built structures that showed clear evidence of planning, engineering, and coordinated construction efforts. We're talking about what could only be described as prehistoric architecture, created by creatures that were supposed to be simple-minded predators, driven purely by instinct. The engineering analysis revealed construction techniques that were unlike anything in the natural world. These structures showed evidence of deliberate material selection with specific types of rocks and functional purposes. The precision of construction exceeded sediments chosen for their particular properties and arranged in patterns that served cleared what could be achieved through random natural processes by orders of magnitude. But here's what really sent shockwaves through the research community. The construction materials weren't just locally available rocks and debris. Evidence suggested that some materials had been transported over considerable distances, implying not just individual effort, but coordinated community projects that required planning, organization, and sustained cooperative labor. Think about the implications of such a discovery. We're talking about dinosaurs engaging in activities that required abstract thinking about future needs, collaborative problem solving, and the ability to coordinate complex projects over extended time periods. This wasn't just tool use. This was technology and engineering on a scale that challenged everything we thought we knew about prehistoric cognition. The structural analysis revealed features that served multiple sophisticated functions. Water flow control systems that could be adjusted seasonally to optimize hunting conditions. Territorial boundary markers that incorporated both visual and acoustic signaling elements. Even what appeared to be nursery areas with specialized features designed to protect and educate young community members. The acoustic engineering was particularly remarkable. Some structures incorporated design elements that could amplify and direct underwater sounds, creating communication networks that spanned vast distances. Individual communities could coordinate activities across territories that encompassed hundreds of square kilometers through these prehistoric communication systems. The research teams found themselves studying evidence of technological innovation that had been developing over geological timescales. Different fossil sites showed clear progression in construction techniques, with later structures incorporating refinements and improvements that had been developed through generations of experimentation and cultural learning. The material science analysis revealed another layer of sophistication that left researchers speechless. The construction techniques showed understanding of how different materials would behave under various environmental conditions. Structures were built to withstand seasonal flooding, temperature variations, and the mechanical stresses created by large aquatic predators moving through and around them. But the preservation and maintenance evidence suggested something even more extraordinary. These weren't just built once and abandoned. The structures showed clear signs of ongoing repair, modification, and improvement across extended time periods. We're talking about technological traditions that were maintained and developed across multiple generations. Imagine the cognitive requirements for such activities. Individual Spinosaurus would have needed to understand not just immediate construction techniques, but long-term planning concepts, material properties, structural engineering principles, and collaborative project management. The intellectual capabilities implied by such evidence were staggering. The site distribution analysis revealed that these constructed features weren't isolated examples, but part of extensive networks that connected different community territories. Trade routes, communication pathways, and shared resource management systems that spanned continental distances and involved multiple distinct populations. The specialization evidence showed that different communities had developed expertise in different types of construction and engineering. Some populations appeared to focus on water management systems, while others specialized in acoustic communication networks or territorial defense structures. This specialization implied trade relationships and knowledge exchange between distant communities. The technological diffusion patterns showed how innovations developed in one region could spread across vast distances through cultural transmission networks. New construction techniques, improved materials, and innovative design concepts could be adopted by communities thousands of kilometers away within relatively short time periods. The research revealed evidence of what could only be described as prehistoric industrial processes. Quarrying operations, where specific materials were extracted using coordinated group efforts. Processing areas where raw materials were modified and prepared for construction projects. Even evidence of quality control procedures that ensured construction materials met specific standards. The transportation systems were equally remarkable. Evidence suggested that heavy construction materials were moved across significant distances using sophisticated techniques that involved coordination between multiple individuals and careful planning of routes and logistics. We're talking about prehistoric supply chains that supported complex construction projects. The time management implications were profound when the full scope of these activities was considered. Spinosaurus communities weren't just surviving day to day. They were engaging in long-term projects that required sustained effort over months or even years. The ability to defer immediate gratification for future benefits demonstrated planning capabilities that approached human levels of sophistication. The social organization required for such projects revealed community structures that were far more complex than simple territorial arrangements. Evidence suggested hierarchical leadership systems, specialized roles and responsibilities, and formal procedures for decision-making about community projects and resource allocation. The conflict resolution evidence showed that these communities had developed sophisticated mechanisms for managing disputes and coordinating activities between different groups. Territorial boundaries weren't just defended through force. They were negotiated, maintained, and modified through what could only be described as diplomatic processes. The legal system implications were staggering when viewed through the lens of modern understanding of social organization. Evidence suggested that Spinosaurus communities had developed formal rules and procedures for managing shared resources, resolving conflicts, and coordinating large-scale projects. We're talking about prehistoric legal frameworks that govern complex social interactions. The economic system analysis revealed sophisticated approaches to resource management and allocation. Different community members appeared to specialize in different activities, with formal mechanisms for exchange and distribution of goods and services. The economic complexity rivaled that of human agricultural societies. The educational system evidence showed that the transmission of technological knowledge required formal training programs that extended over multiple years. Young community members underwent structured learning experiences that included both practical skills and theoretical understanding of engineering principles and construction techniques. The research and development implications were perhaps the most remarkable of all. Evidence suggested that Spinosaurus communities engaged in systematic experimentation with new construction techniques, materials, and designs. Failed experiments could be identified alongside successful innovations, revealing scientific methodology that involved hypothesis testing and iterative improvement. The mathematical capabilities implied by these construction projects included sophisticated understanding of geometry, structural mechanics, and resource optimization. The precision of construction required computational abilities that exceeded what anyone had thought possible in non-human organisms. The artistic elements incorporated into functional structures revealed aesthetic sensibilities that went beyond simple utilitarian concerns. Decorative features served no immediate survival function, but demonstrated cultural values and creative expression that added beauty and meaning to community spaces. The ceremonial architecture evidence suggested that these communities engaged in activities that served social and cultural functions beyond immediate survival needs. Gathering spaces designed for community meetings, ritual activities, and cultural celebrations demonstrated social complexity that approached human levels of organization. The historical preservation efforts showed that these communities maintained records of their achievements and developments across multiple generations. Construction techniques, successful innovations, and important cultural traditions were preserved and transmitted through methods that ensured continuity of knowledge across time. The international collaboration that emerged around studying these discoveries created unprecedented cooperation between researchers from dozens of different fields. Understanding prehistoric technology required expertise from archaeology, engineering, material science, social psychology, and even urban planning disciplines. The technological applications of these discoveries began influencing modern construction and engineering practices. The solutions that Spinosaurus communities had developed for managing aquatic construction projects offered insights that were relevant for contemporary infrastructure development in challenging environments. The educational impact transformed understanding of both prehistoric life and the development of technological capabilities. Students learned that intelligence and innovation weren't uniquely human characteristics, but represented fundamental properties of evolutionary development that could emerge in any lineage given appropriate environmental conditions. The philosophical implications challenged basic assumptions about the nature of civilization and technological development. If dinosaurs could achieve such sophisticated levels of social organization and technological capability, what did that mean for understanding the uniqueness of human achievement and the possibilities for intelligence in other species? The comparative studies with human technological development revealed remarkable parallels in how complex societies emerged and developed sophisticated capabilities. The progression from simple tool use to complex engineering projects followed similar patterns across completely different evolutionary lineages. The conservation awareness generated by understanding how remarkable these ancient technological civilizations had been inspired new perspectives on protecting modern environments that might support similar levels of evolutionary innovation. The lesson was that biodiversity loss could eliminate possibilities for technological and cultural development that might never be recovered. So here we are, after this incredible journey through nearly 2 centuries of scientific discovery and revolutionary revelations. From those first mysterious teeth misidentified as ancient crocodile remains to the mind-blowing evidence of sophisticated prehistoric civilizations, the story of Spinosaurus has completely transformed our understanding of what was possible in the ancient world. Every single discovery has challenged our assumptions, shattered our preconceptions, and opened up entirely new possibilities for understanding the complexity and sophistication of prehistoric life. The creature that started as a paleontological mystery has become a testament to nature's endless capacity for innovation